Events begin to take place not far from the school, where the bell has already begun to ring, as a sign that the lesson has begun. The girls were walking near the school and noticed a guy named Wang from Hongtian. He was the guy who was last in academic performance every year. If it weren't for his rich parents, he wouldn't have been able to achieve anything in life. Fan Wang heard this and just smiled, because these girls were really talking nonsense, and he ranked first in mathematics every year. Suddenly, the guy remembered that his father had promised him lunch today, but he was nowhere to be found. Having called his father, the hero did not understand why he did not answer the phone. It turned out that it was not his father who answered the phone call. Wei Fan was detained on suspicion of corruption, he was removed from his post as director, and an investigation was launched. This turn of events truly frightened the guy, because he did not understand how it happened. The frightened young man wanted to find out from the stranger what had happened, but the unknown man turned off the call. Instantly the guy began to call a taxi, because he urgently needed to get to the Tianxi Peninsula. Fortunately, the taxi driver quickly reacted and picked the guy into his car. After getting into the car, Fan Wang suddenly realized that he had absolutely no cash with him. The angry taxi driver immediately noticed that his passenger was nervous and asked him if he had money to pay for the taxi fare. Not knowing what to answer, the hero only said that he did not have cash with him, but his family had hundreds of billions of dollars. This answer clearly did not suit the man, and he asked if it was really true. As confirmation, the passenger decided to hand over a black and gold credit card with more than $10 million on it. But as soon as the card was used through the terminal, it turned out that it was simply blocked. Getting even more angry, the taxi driver exclaimed that the guy was a lawbreaker. Feeling very anxious, the guy just shouted that he was really a millionaire, and this was his card, and he himself didn't understand how it happened. The taxi driver immediately began to threaten the heroes, hitting him right in the face, and said that he should give him the money now, otherwise he would beat him even worse. Soon the angry man realized that this guy was a beggar and was just pretending to be a rich man. Some time later, events continued to occur in the Wang family's villa. The upset hero continued to walk into the house, when suddenly the door suddenly opened. The mother, leaving the estate, immediately said that Fan Wan's father was caught for corruption, and all property and accounts were frozen, only this house remained for her and Wei Chen. This upset the hero even more, because he did not understand how he would live further. It turned out that the smart woman had already filed divorce papers, and now Fan Wang is a nobody. The arrogant Wei Chen also thought the guy was an idiot who didn't even have the right to enter this house. But at that very second, someone gradually began to leave the house, asking who made the noise. This man was Sheng Chen, Wei Chen's father, and he wanted to know who this guy was standing in front of him. Together they called the main character a dirty dog whose father was behind bars. Not wanting to listen to this anymore, Van exclaimed that he would not stop bullying him, and everything they have is only thanks to his father. Continuing to mock the guy, Wei Chen kicked him, and thereby knocked him to the floor, because he believed that this was a lie, and if his father had not been so rich, then this would not have happened. By the way, they were very lucky that Fan Wang, in their opinion, was so worthless, and his dad pinned all his hopes on Wei Chen, which is why they were able to take the property. The scoundrel also believed that the hero was a nonentity, and just because he was born into a rich family did not mean that he would be better. The guy immediately reacted, saying that his father treated Wei Chen very well, but he was being completely ungrateful. As it turned out, it was Wei Chen who tried to get the hero's father behind bars, and now it's every man for himself. The scoundrel's father smiled and shouted that he shouldn't talk to this idiot, and it was better to teach him a lesson. Taking out his knife, Wei Chen wished for Fan Wan's death and was about to stab him. Thus, the villain really struck directly at the guy, and thereby took his life. The trembling heroes lay on the ground, and the villains did not know how to get rid of his body. In another world, the hero already understood that he would soon see his mother, and held a pendant with her photograph in his hands, although he did not want to die at all. Suddenly, at that very second, a strange golden glow appeared. Then an unknown hologram with a mysterious girl appeared, and the guy immediately wanted to find out who she was. The sweet girl begged him to donate to her, because he could get anything for a donation. The frightened guy wanted to know where he ended up, and thought that it was the afterlife, and also did not understand how he could even get to a place where he immediately needed to spend money. In fact, the girl was not a ghost from the afterlife, but she is the most powerful donation system. Again, not understanding what was happening, Van wanted to ask what the most powerful donation system was, but suddenly realized that all he had to do was donate, and she would do whatever he wanted. This was indeed the case, and the system only confirmed it. The smart young man immediately asked how much money he would need to donate to go back a year. Without thinking twice, the system replied that very little money would be needed, namely 100 million. Seeing a screen asking if the guy wanted to make a payment, there was only the option to click on the yes or no button. 100 million was really extremely cheap for him. He just wanted to be given the opportunity to donate, because he wanted to get back to life as soon as possible. The joyful system realized that it had found a rich gentleman, and was incredibly lucky as soon as it was born, and immediately met the rich gentleman. With a wave of her hand, the girl shouted that it was time for the Renaissance. But it turned out that the main character had only 70 million in his account. The amount in his account was not enough for the operation, which is why it was necessary to top up the account. With tears in her eyes, the system realized that she had just been born and immediately met a worthless poor man. Feeling very embarrassed and blushing, the hero asked if it was possible to pay on credit. The upset system did not understand who prescribed these rules, that you cannot simply change the user, but still agreed that the user would repay his loan in the future with interest. Fan Wang was confident in his action, and asked the girl not to worry, because his father had a lot of billions, and he should only return to normal life as soon as possible. Having used a magic spell, in the end the girl only told her master that the interest rate on his loan was 20%. Soon after this, the system still gave a loan to the guy, and he, in turn, understood that this percentage was incredibly high, and even his father had less. Opening his eyes, the hero saw several girls in front of him, who were very happy that he woke up. Having woken up in an unknown place, the guy wanted to understand where he was and what kind of girls were surrounding him. One of the girls, who looked very much like a man, hugged Van, saying that he scared her when he fell asleep. Some time later, the guy realized that he had been reborn, and this was his coming-of-age party. Throwing the strange girl aside, Van was glad that he was finally alive. The girl with the beard began to cry and asked the hero why he did this to her, and whether he really stopped loving her. Amazed by his taste, the guy did not understand how he could date such a girl before. Laughing evilly, he still realized that he had been reborn after all, and this was really very cool. In a past life, just today, Wei Chen did something with a Lamborghini given by his father, and as a result, he had an accident and almost died. And then his father had to make Wei Chen the heir of the company. This time the guy has a donation system, and Wei Chen will pay for his worthless actions. Realizing his power, the guy asked his sister if she was next to him. The donation system immediately waved to the guy, saying that she was near him. Fortunately, Fan Wang did not lie to the girl, and he was indeed very rich. Extending her hand, the girl asked her brother to repay his debt and pay it right now. Suddenly, he still remembered that he was now deeply in debt, and he needed to pay everything off as soon as possible. If he remembered correctly, his father bought him several gifts worth tens of millions, and first he needed to pay for the donation. Turning to the strange girl, he wanted to ask her where his father left all the gifts. Delighted at this turn of events, the strange girl immediately exclaimed that they were in an underground garage. Van clearly did not like this behavior, and he hit the impudent man who was wearing a dress with all his might and ordered him not to come any closer. It turned out that the man really liked it, because Fan Wang was very cruel, and he asked to hit him several more times. Feeling even more angry, the guy began to leave, realizing that there was no point in talking to him anymore. In this situation, the hero understood that this man was ruining his reputation, and as soon as he returned, he would punish him for such actions. Now for the guy it was really an abomination, and he liked girls better. Entering the gift room, he discovered many different things that had been given to him as birthday gifts. Rejoicing even more, the guy asked the system if all this was enough to pay off the debt. This really should have been enough, but the girl also pointed out that there was only interest left to pay. Hearing this answer, Van thought that his little sister was worse than any huckster, and began to donate Philip's watch for 550,000, an Armani bracelet for 70,000, and a gold bracelet with a stone for 120,000. Suddenly, he also remembered that nearby there was a very expensive car that he could also donate to. In this red Lamborghini, the heroes got into trouble in a past life when an accident occurred and he ended up in the hospital. The unknown masked man immediately saw the guy and gradually began to run away. This scoundrel was clearly doing something with the car and wanted to break it so that an unforeseen incident would happen. Looking at the criminal, the hero decided to ask who he really was. The scoundrel continued to run away and hoped that he would not be noticed. Realizing that he had to act, Van grabbed the criminal and ordered him to stop. The villain also decided to act and threw an unknown fabric right in the face of the main character. After the guy was distracted, the criminal began to hit him directly in the face. From several precise blows, the hero immediately fell to the floor, because he did not expect him to fight. The thief looked straight into the guy's eyes and said that he really was a worthless piece of trash. Raising his fist again, the unknown wanted to hit the hero, causing him even more damage. The blow was again delivered directly to the guy's face, and the villain continued to say that in this case his father's money was completely unimportant, and he would beat him anyway. After suffering several blows, the guy exclaimed that he wanted to exchange the car for combat skill. The clever system explained that this car had a serious brake failure. Its value immediately dropped to 1 million. Hearing this, the hero realized that, as expected, the car was indeed broken. Running up to her, the guy shouted that he would donate her because he needed the ability. The joyful girl gave the owner the opportunity to choose several goods, such as an iron fist for 1 million, or many illusions for 8 million. The dissatisfied boy shouted at the girl to quickly choose what he could use right now. The iron fist ability was chosen. Its price was exactly 1 million. The news was really great, because now the hero can defend himself from his enemies. Having activated the iron fist skill, the guy's hand immediately began to burn with a bright red flame. Now the enemy must suffer at the hands of Manhwa, because he is much stronger at the moment. Not expecting his opponent to become stronger, the villain shouted that Van was just a stubborn scum and he would defeat him with one hand. But this was not destined to happen, and Van hit the scoundrel right in the face with all his might, taking revenge for everything he had done. A starting skill such as the Iron Fist was extremely strong for ordinary people, because few people had such fighting abilities. Hitting the stone wall, the villain began to scream in pain. The unknown person immediately realized that, as it turned out, his opponent now knew how to fight. Van immediately determined that he was unknown and at the very least someone's fighter, and ordered him to quickly say who sent him here. Having taken out a knife, the villain immediately wanted to throw it right at the main character, taking revenge on him. Fortunately, the scoundrel missed with the dagger, and it got stuck in the wall, because it was extremely sharp and could cause incredible damage. As soon as Van was distracted, the scoundrel immediately began to run, shouting after him that they would see each other again. Taking a closer look at the knife, the guy realized that it was the throwing knife of the Wei Chen family from Qingzhou, and if he is not mistaken, then Wei Chen's father adopted him in Jingzhou, and this was a really significant clue, because the enemy underestimated the hero. Looking at his hand, the guy immediately realized that he had the feeling of awakening blood, but he knew that only with the awakened blood of a warrior can one practice weapons. After thinking a little, Van turned to his little sister and said that this iron fist was not very good, and wanted to know if it was possible to somehow improve it. The donation system explained that the iron fist is divided into initial, medium and high levels. The high level costs 10 million, and now it has the initial level. It is the weakest. For a second, the guy even forgot that this girl was a huckster. After thinking a little, the guy realized that I didn't want to call her little sister, now he will call her Donati. Realizing that the girl didn't really like it, he was only glad of it, and now began to call her Donatia. Some time later, Van returned to the party and his friends immediately noticed and were happy. Even that creepy guy who was dressed in a woman's dress was very glad that the hero came to him and invited him to have fun together. Getting even more angry, the young man exclaimed that the man should not even come close to him, and went to hell from here. Looking at this old man, it was unacceptable that he was pretending to be a girl, and terribly disgusting. Meanwhile, Wei Chen called the hero and decided to wish him a happy birthday. Near him was an unknown girl who was laughing and happy that she could also be present here. Instantly the lady ran up to Van and began to hug him, saying that she was very glad to meet him. Wei Chen didn't like this behavior very much, but he didn't even say anything. Smiling sweetly, the scoundrel prepared a gift for the hero, and hoped that he would like it very much. As it turned out, the gift was a gold watch, and the hero understood that although there was a lot of falsehood in this guy, such an expensive watch could be donated. Thanking his guest, Fan Wang exclaimed that now Wei Chen is giving an old man in a woman's dress as a thank you. Refusing such a gift, the scoundrel said that he liked the girl he now had better. In any case, the man in a woman's dress had already chosen him as his target, and literally fell in love at first sight. Grinning, the hero said that now he wants to show his guests magic tricks so that they can watch their money disappear. Those present were not against it, and wanted to see what the birthday boy was up to. Pointing to a brand new gift, the guy said that everyone should look at it carefully, because it was time for the trick. Touching the gift, he said that in a few seconds the gift would disappear. At the same time, the donation system indicated that this watch would cost 100,000. The trick was truly a success, because as soon as Van touched the clock, it instantly disappeared. The spectators, who did not understand anything, wanted to know how this was possible, and where exactly the clock was hidden. Some even thought that he and Wei Chen were deceiving them, and this could not happen. Even the scoundrel did not understand what was going on, and where exactly the expensive watch had gone. After thinking a little, the guy exclaimed that it seemed that no one here believed in his abilities, but he understood that now everyone would fall for his bait. One of the guests held out his expensive watch and asked to evaporate it. Another guest also put his exclusive bracelet, which cost a lot of money. Literally everyone started putting down their jewelry because they wanted to see how the magic happened and where exactly the items went. Since all the guests decided to simply lose their things, Van wanted to make them disappear, and he donated. Indeed, many decorations instantly disappeared, and they were nowhere to be found. The guests who came really thought that this was a very cool skill and no one else could do it. Turning to the villain, the guy asked him if Wei Chen thought this was a cool trick. The arrogant scoundrel immediately looked at the hero, but did not show that he was a criminal. He just smiled and said that it was really impressive. Using his chance, Fan Wang decided to compete with Wei Chen. Since he is so cool, he should give the guy a sports car, but then the impudent man said that he would have to do something cooler for this. Addressing a crowd of people, the hero asked if they believed that he could vaporize an entire car. Guests at the event shouted that he couldn't do it. Everyone even started betting money that it was impossible because the machine was very huge. Wei Chen, meanwhile, understood that this guy couldn't be that cool, and if he could do it, he could easily give him his car. Some time later, events continued to take place in an underground garage, where there were many expensive cars. There were now many witnesses in the garage, so Wei Chen could no longer go back on his words, and the hero could earn a lot from these cars that were here. Starting to pray, Fan Wang began to call upon the King of Heaven, the King of Earth, the King of all living things to help him, as well as Donatia, who would evaporate all the machines. In his thoughts, he also said that Donatia would accept all these cars as a donation. Thus, many expensive cars that cost several million disappeared instantly. Those present again could not understand how this was possible, as if it were some kind of magic. The hero was literally admired, telling him that he was a real wizard. Only Wei Chen was dissatisfied, and did not understand how so many cars could disappear in an instant. The smart young man told Wei Chen that there were no more cars, and now he had to give money for the dispute. It turned out that his enemy had already transferred 50 million to the account, and also said that he still had business to do, because his father called him to the company to help, and he began to leave. This incident greatly infuriated Fan Wang, because he understood that in a previous life the company went bankrupt because of his help, and this time Chen would not succeed. Suddenly the guy called Chen and asked him to wait. Feeling angry, the enemy understood that this guy would never get rid of him. Events continued to occur in Hongtian Company. In fact, Wei needed to sign the contract, which is why he had to go urgently. The hero didn't bother him, he just said that he had a lot of debts and he wanted to ask his father to give him money. Some time later, events continued to happen in the director's office. The father asked his son if he liked the gift. Van replied that he really liked the gift, and he just came to see his father. An elderly man named Wang Wei immediately thought that the little scoundrel needed money again. It was really clear from the smart expression on his face that the guy only needed money. Suddenly the fire alarm went off and could be heard throughout the building. The guy didn't immediately understand what the sound was, but then he realized that it was a fire alarm. Turning to Donata, he decided to ask if the system had anti-theft equipment. Fortunately, there was a universal detector available, which is used to detect listening devices at a distance of 100 m, and its price is 1 million. There was also another option, namely a microdetector, which is used to detect listening devices at a distance of 10 m, its price is 100,000. Within a few seconds, the guy was easily able to purchase that same microdetector, and saved money on it. The son immediately showed his father that he needed to be quieter. Taking his mobile phone, he wrote to his father that many listening devices had been found in the office, and someone was spying on him. Wang also asked if they needed to be removed. Wang Wei responded to his son's message, saying that listening devices should not be removed, and he could mislead them. After showing his father that everything was fine, Van began to talk about how he was really tight with money lately. Wang also wanted to give his father listening devices so that he would be more careful. Wei was truly grateful to his son, although he understood that this device was indeed very expensive. Soon after this, they decided to act out a skit, and the father asked his son how much money he needed. The smart guy replied that he was asking for little, only 10 million. As it turned out, Wei Chen had been listening to their conversation all this time, and understood that 10 million was quite a large amount, and their father was throwing money away. Without words, Fan Wang also decided to show his father what he had learned in this short period of time. The older man was actually very proud of his son because he realized that he had awakened the blood of a fighter. The last time, the father gave his son money, and ordered him to quickly go to school and pay off all his student debts, but Wang Wei also realized that now his son had matured, and he did not worry that the guy would waste the money. Having accepted the money, the young man said goodbye to his father and said that he would not disappoint him again, because he did not want to allow a sad end. A few minutes later, events continue to occur in the Hongtian Company Hall. The arrogant guy immediately approached Fan Wang and asked him if he was really asking for money again. The main character did not see anything wrong with this, because he understood that it was normal for the son to ask his father for money. The scoundrel, meanwhile, insisted that his father was given this money for a reason, and this should be understood. Angry with Wei Chen, Wang thought that his father was clearly not earning this money for him. A few hours later, events continue to occur at Fengling School. Classmates discussed that Fan Wang arrived by taxi, and his brand new sports car had disappeared somewhere. Everyone who saw this began to think that the rich son had run out of money. Even his comrades began to laugh at the fact that he arrived in a simple taxi, and not in his expensive sports car. Noticing him, one of the friends immediately began to run to Van, because he wanted to tell him something. A concerned friend told Wang that the head of the academic department, Lu Tian, was calling him and wanted to tell him something bad anyway. The self-confident guy only said that you shouldn't be afraid for him, because now he gets out of any situation himself, and is no longer afraid of anyone. Arriving at school, Van went into the office of the educational department, where school employees were already waiting for him. While talking on the phone, the director said that according to the school's rules, if Wang does not pass the exam, they will expel him, then the hero will not be able to be the successor of the Hongtian Company. The guy heard all this, and for the sake of decency he knocked on the director's door, asking if he had called him. The angry man shouted that Fan Wan should be ashamed for coming to such a respected person in the middle of the day. In any case, the guy said that he had no shame, and he was already leaving the office. Hitting the table with all his might, the angry director shouted that if Wang did not pass the exam this month, he would be expelled. Turning around, the student only thanked the director for the reminder, after which he began to leave. Until now, the frightened friend wanted to find out from his comrade why this beast was calling him. The heroes only explained that there was nothing wrong, and he only said that he would expel him if he did not pass the exam. The faithful comrade shouted to his brother that no matter what school he went to, he would always go with him. Van immediately calmed him down and hugged him, saying that under no circumstances could he be expelled. After all the classes ended, events continued to happen in the dorm. The roommate told his brother that he could get acquainted with girls using his magic tricks, and asked him to teach him too. Realizing that this is the deity of donation, and not tricks, the hero still said that he would try to teach his comrade. Taking out the poker cards, Van told the plump guy that he should practice himself, but he was tired, and after the exam he would teach him. As soon as the hero lay down on the bed, he began to think that it seems that simply acquiring skills is not enough, it is also important to train their power. Looking at the balance sheet, Van was shocked that he had very little money left. Donatya immediately explained to him that the total amount was 800 million, 10 million was spent on the Iron Fist, another 1 million on the tracking system, and a debt of 500 million was deducted, leaving the account balance at 352 million. Sighing heavily, the guy turned around and thought that this loli was really very angry. Donatya also reminded him that every 3 days 10% of the debt amount will be written off. This really made the hero extremely angry, and he shouted that Donatya was a speculator, a robber, and also a looter, but it was just business. In any case, it was necessary to prepare for the exam, because it would happen very soon. Events continued to happen the next day, with Van waking up the chubby boy, asking if he passed the exam. When the guy woke up, he replied that he had passed the main exams, and he would help with mathematics. Realizing the complexity of the exams, the hero decided to ask what other exams remained. The roommate replied that the month's exam would have 3 practice projects, namely a strength test, a movement test, and a martial arts test. The strength test is the easiest, you need to hit a punching bag and reach 200 kilograms. The test for practicing movements is more complex, you need to go through an obstacle course in 15 seconds. The martial arts test is even more difficult because you need to show all your skills in combat. After thinking for a while, Wang realized that all these tests were almost the same as last month. But the boy also understood that last time he was very disgraced in the exams. With a smile on his face, he realized that this time he would definitely pass this exam. Donatya, addressing the hero, said that on the Gao continent there are 4 sections of practice, namely strength, element, intelligence, and ancient weapons. Hearing this, the guy immediately had a question about what would be most suitable for him. The clever system told him that absolutely all areas of practice would be suitable for money. Smiling maliciously, Van told the system that in this case he would choose the coolest section, namely intelligence. Having indicated to the owner the prices, such as the basis of the mine division 100 million, the basis of the ancient weapon division 60 million, the basis of the element division 30 million, and the basis of the strength division 10 million, Donatya explained that the owner is too poor and he does not have enough money. The dumbfounded guy realized his complexity of existence and said that in this case he would choose strength. Donatya chose all the skills for him, and began pumping up the initial upgrade for 25 million, the ghostly cloud for 80 million, and the step of 7 stars for 22 million. Realizing that he would now be completely destitute, Van decided to make the exchange anyway. Once the exchange was completed, his account balance was only 10,000. Winking at the guy, the donation system said that he could take out a loan to buy even more skills. Then the guy remembered that after his birthday, the shares of the contractor Feng Lin increased greatly. It was decided that he took out a loan of 50 million to purchase as many shares as possible. Donatya was only happy with this decision, and easily approved the loan to the guy. Wang, who believed in himself, exclaimed that he would buy Lin Feng shares for all 50 million, and everything should work out for him. Some time later, events continued to occur on the student sports ground, where the school director spoke to the students. The man warned all the students that this month's exam will start now. All the students were extremely excited that the exams were finally starting and they would do their best to pass them. Only the main character was infuriated by this whole situation, and he wanted to get out of here as quickly as possible. Looking straight into the guy's eyes, the director also reminded that according to the school's rules, students who fail the exam 3 times face expulsion. Realizing that the director was talking about him, Van became angry at such a hint and wanted to really try to pass the exam. As it turned out, in a previous life, the father gave bribes to the director so that he would not be kicked out of school, but this time the guy was going to pass everything himself. It was announced that all students needed to go to their places because the exam was starting. The furious principal also warned the teachers not to help the students and he would personally supervise them. The evil man already understood that he would soon expel Fan Wan, because he doubted that he could pass the exam. Wei Chen was also present at this exam and was ready to take it. One of the teachers addressed the students, saying that the first exam is an obstacle course, and it is necessary to pass the maximum obstacles in 17 seconds. The record of 6:31 seconds belongs to the talented student Qin Jie. The hero was already ready to run, and shouted to the crowd to open their eyes properly and see him in action. The girl blew the whistle with all her might, and thus the exam began. Using his incredible agility, the hero began to run forward with all his strength to run through as many obstacles as possible. The speed was truly mind-blowing, but 17 seconds passed extremely quickly, and the exam was over. Looking at everything that was happening, the director could not believe his eyes, because he did not understand how this was possible. Even Fan Wan's class supervisor, Xianingyu, couldn't believe it, and this outcome made her extremely angry. It turned out that Fan Wang successfully passed the exam and completed the entire obstacle course in 17 seconds. Everyone around him considered him extremely lucky, saying that he was just lucky, and he would definitely fail the next exam. The next task is the punching bag. The previous record of 479 kilograms belongs to the talented student Qin Jie, and again the next stage of the exam has begun. Using his new skill, Fan Wang successfully passed the exam with a result of 213 kilograms. Having looked at how the guy passed the exam, he again could not believe his eyes, because this guy had not passed a single exam before. Although the hero's hand hurt very much after the blow, he was ready to take the exam further and begin the next test. The third task is a martial arts test. After standing up against a combat robot, you cannot press the button for 10 seconds, and the countdown has begun. The countdown immediately began, and the combat robot immediately began to attack the guy, using his strongest techniques and blows, but with dexterous movements he dodged incredibly strong attacks with all his might. The 10-second countdown was completed, and Fan Wang completed the competition again by pressing the button after 10 seconds. Watching this competition, Wei Chen and the director were extremely unhappy with this outcome of events, because they expected failure. In any case, these competitions were so for the guy, because he was capable of more. Even Xianingyu admitted that Fan Wang had good control of his body, and his talent was clearly not inferior to Qin Jie. The enraged director assumed that the student was cheating and ordered him to come up to check him. The smart guy immediately approached the director, asking if he really questioned his teacher Xianingyu's teaching. The director was immediately confused by such a tricky question and didn't even know what to answer. The curator also turned to the angry man, asking if he really would have any more questions for her student. While the curator and the director were arguing on stage, the guy realized that things were really very bad and it was better to leave quickly. Then he began to go to the school park in order to leave the exam as quickly as possible and not challenge it. The unsuspecting guy realized that if Xianingyu hadn't caught him, he would have felt very bad. Suddenly, the curator approached her student and asked what happened here, because she wanted to know what was going on. The stunned guy immediately assumed that Xianingyu could read minds and recognize lies. She should not be lied to, which is why he called Donatia to help him. Winking at the main character, the girl only said that he needed a donation of 100 million, and she would help him. Experiencing strong contradictions, the guy still gritted his teeth and said that he agreed. Then the donation system handed him a capsule for restoring the nervous system, which restores it 100%. Previously, Xianingyu had irregular periods due to mental trauma, and she should be given this capsule, Donatia suggested. A smart guy turned to the teacher, saying that he would help cure her hidden illness. After a moment, the teacher immediately became angry because she did not understand how the student knew about this. Feeling very embarrassed, the guy explained that she had insomnia, absent-mindedness, and irregular menstruation. That's why he gave her a magic vial that can solve all her problems. While running away from the scene, the guy also shouted after him that he should drink the medicine that was in the bottle, and the effect would be immediate. Looking at the student, the curator could not understand why he could not pass the exam before, but now he passed it, as if he had just pretended before. Holding a strange vial in her hands, she also did not understand why he gave it. It turned out that Xianingyu has soul visualization, which allows her to hear and recognize any creature. Looking at the bottle with the help of her magical abilities, she realized that this was a capsule for restoring the nervous system. Then she decided to drink it in order to cure her hidden illness. As soon as the bottle was drunk, Xianingyu immediately felt instant relief, and she was very pleased to know that she was now healthy. The girl really didn't expect it, because no matter how long this illness went on, it finally ended, and everything was fine. Suddenly, her phone rang and she decided to answer the call. It was her father who said that he again made an appointment for her to see a doctor about a hidden illness. Xia Ningyu, in turn, explained that this did not need to be done, and she had already recovered. Some time later, events continued to occur in the Yuanlin company. The girl's father was interested in how she found the capsule for restoring the nervous system. The embarrassed girl said that this capsule was given to her by one of the students. His father's name is Wang Wei. The elderly man immediately remembered that this guy was the son of a former competitor. At the same time, an unsuspecting guy is sitting in the dorm and looking at something on his laptop. His friend was extremely happy, saying that Van was a really cool mathematician. After all, the shares in which he invested money began to immediately grow, and grew all the time. The enterprising, cunning guy turned to his friend and asked if he wanted to invest in stocks. Immediately, the roommate agreed, telling his friend to take his card, because there were more than 20 million on it, and he believed his brother Fan Wang. Laughing, the guy just wanted to ask his friend why he gives away his bank card so easily, and is he really not afraid of losing? For his friend, this was truly a small loss, and Van would only need to help him complete the F-level task. Wang immediately decided to see what kind of task it was. As it turned out, it was necessary to find the hangout of the Eastern Star Group. Puckliash explained that this was a new secret organization that gave him this task. The Eastern Star Group issued loans at huge interest rates. As a result, many families died due to debts. Skeptical of his friend, Van was surprised, because he had not seen his comrade carry out tasks. It turned out that he performs these tasks in the name of the fight against evil, as well as in the name of the people. At the same time, he can complete the task for an upgrade. This answer was really exciting, and the heroes considered him a show-off. Then the guy decided to ask to borrow a friend's car for a couple of days. The plump guy, in turn, agreed to such conditions, but only if Van helped him complete the task. A few hours later, events continued to occur in the Qingxiang area, namely in the chubby car. Turning to Donata, the guy wanted to ask her to help find the address of the brothel. The donation system immediately explained that providing key material is a paid service. The good-natured girl also asked the owner, should we find Qinglong, the head of the Eastern Star Group? Martial arts proficiency level is at E level. The main area of activity is Qingxiang district. Wang immediately realized that Qinglong was Wei Chen's cousin, who had deceived him in every possible way in his past life, which is why the hero asked his little sister to help him find him. The price was really impressive, namely 10 million for a search within 1 kilometer. Thus, Van realized that by paying this cost, all earnings from his share would instantly disappear, and the baby was too cruel. A minute later, the donation system determined that Qinglong was not within 1 kilometer, and the guy needed to add even more money. A donation of 20 million was again added to the donation system, although this made Fan Wan very angry. Fortunately, this Donatya helped, and Donatya successfully found the enemy. Pointing to one of the buildings, the girl said that their enemy was located there. This building was called the Joy Club. Entering it, the comrades found many scoundrels sitting and playing cards. The brave guy immediately turned to his friend, saying that there was no need to look, but to act. The plump guy, in turn, did not want to anger these people, and to quickly leave here. In any case, Vaughn sprang into action and asked several men who was in charge, ordering them to bring him here. This behavior clearly did not please the contingent who lived in this establishment, and they became extremely angry with the young man. One of those present shouted that the kid was clearly in the wrong place and should leave here. Realizing the complexity of the situation, the hero then shouted that he should speak more politely to him, because Brother Luan ordered them to help. None of the bandits really could believe that Qinglong had called this kid here to come help them. Without showing it, the hero asked one of the bandits if he was really the boss here. And it was true, Yuan Lian was Qinglong's deputy, and wanted to find out who these guys were. Wang Na replied that it was none of his business, and within 3 minutes if they did not bring Brother Qinglong here, he would instantly destroy everything here. From such an expression, the bandits immediately began to laugh, saying that these youths were clearly arrogant. They didn't even have mustaches, and they were already dreaming of defeating several bandits. The determined guy asked Donatya to give him a signal jammer. The nice system announced that the cheapest plug costs 2 million, and is valid for 200 the action time will be 10 minutes. Rubbing his hands, the hero already understood that 10 minutes should be enough for him, and decided to donate. This was not a problem for the donation system, and it enabled the stub action. While pleading, Vaughn even said that they had already been spotted and the signal was blocked if they hadn't noticed. Looking at their phones, the bandits noticed that there really were no signals, and absolutely no one had them. The phones were not active at all, and there was no signal at all, which made it impossible to call anyone at all. The frightened bandits began to frantically watch their phones, and did not understand what was happening here. Continuing to watch the bandits, the hero still realized that it looked like he should show his strength. Jumping onto the gaming table, Van ordered all the bandits to look at him, and decided to donate everything that was on the table. I don't understand what's happening. The bandits were simply furious, and even frightened by such serious skills. After all, having jumped onto the table, the guy ordered Donata to take him away. The donation system didn't particularly like this, because it was a shame to take such a cheap thing. In any case, if you take this table now, there will be even more good things in the future. At that same second, the table in front of the bandits disappeared in an instant, and they were incredibly scared. Trembling with fear, one of the bandits suggested that Fan Wong possessed Ling Ling, which is a particularly powerful magical equipment that was currently known about Ling Space, Ling Time, Ling Darkness, and Ling Light. The frightened bandit also understood that this guy owned Lin Space and it was better not to joke with him. Experiencing severe stress, the bandit asked the main character to sit down, because he had not previously realized that he was really Qinglong's friend. The main character, in turn, addressed all the bandits, saying that they should remember his face, because next time they need to be more respectful. Thus, the deputy chief bandit asked the hero to go inside and take what he needed. What was in this room amazed Fan Wong, because he did not expect to see it. There were many types of weapons in the room, and Van was extremely happy because he was looking forward to the fact that he was now very rich, because these weapons were all his. The smart guy turned to the bandit, saying that they should move it all to where Brother Qinglong said, and ordered Donata to get to work. The joyful donation system exclaimed that there were more than 100 million in this room. Wang, meanwhile, understood that this would be retribution for Qinglong for all his sins. Remaining in the room, the guy said that he would donate all the contents of this room into the system. The bandits liked this outcome very much, because they saw Fan Wan's supernatural abilities and were amazed by this. Suddenly, one of the bandits shouted that Brother Qinglong had returned. Understanding the hopelessness of the situation, Van knew that he had to get out of here. With every second, the head of the Eastern Star Group, Qinglong, came closer to the building, and was already ready to enter it. Puckliash was also very worried, and understood that perhaps this would be the end for them. His friend immediately started shouting that the guy clearly needed to be more serious. Because in fact, nothing bad has happened yet, and the chubby guy can follow Fan Wong so as not to get hurt. Turning to Brother Qinglong, the hero only said that they were already leaving, after which he began to move towards the exit. Looking at these guys, the bandit decided to ask them to wait. After which, Qinglong asked the two guys who they were. His deputy immediately said that it was Brother Qinglong who asked these guys to help move the goods. These words extremely pissed off the gang leader, because he shouldn't have called anyone, and he doesn't know these guys at all. As soon as the bandits realized that they had been deceived, the guys immediately began to run towards the exit to escape death. Many bandits began to run straight after their comrades to take revenge on them for their actions. Puckliash was very worried, and understood that they might not escape and would remain here forever. Using his magical powers, Van asked the puffball not to worry because he could kill them. Having relaxed, the comrades stopped and stopped running, because they wanted to attack the villains who were trying to catch up with them. Using superhuman abilities, Fan Wong was able to easily knock out the gang leader using only a single blow. Puckliash was also not against attacking these bandits in order to stop their pursuit and finish the mission he had started. Having changed all his fighting skills, the chubby man began to destroy the enemies around him in order to stay alive. Thus, after a few minutes of fighting, all the enemies were defeated, and the fight was simply perfect. Suddenly, someone threw a shuriken, which flew straight at the protagonist's friend. The brave guy immediately defended his comrade and pushed him so that the throwing weapon would not hit him. Fortunately, the shuriken flew straight into the tree, and it was obvious that it was thrown using magical abilities. It turned out that Qinglong was still not defeated, and wanted to find out from the insolent people how they dared to touch his things and beat his people. The experienced bandit realized that these guys had an F-awakening level, and it was unknown how they dared to sneak into his lair. Qinglong believed that these guys were really too arrogant, and they felt very brave. Using the F-level release, the gang leader wanted to attack the guys who dared to attack his lair. The excited chubby boy knew that this skill was the peak of level F. The angry scoundrel continued to attack Fan Wan and the plump one, because he wanted to take revenge on them for everything they had done. Suddenly, our comrade still managed to dodge the powerful blow of the gang leader. Now Qinglong wanted to see how the young guys could dodge the next blow. Using his magical blows, the criminal hit his comrades with all his might, who experienced incredible pain from this. Their bodies were immediately thrown several meters to the sides, because the force of the blow was simply incredible. The angry bandit wanted to know who sent such two cowards here. The guy literally couldn't breathe after such a strong blow, and the pain was simply unbearable. But it was still necessary to do something, and he decided to ask Donati if she could help him in this case. Donata really didn't like the hero's cry, and she asked not to rush her, because she already knew everything. The girl chose absolutely all the skills that needed to be upgraded for him. The sparkling shield, as well as a life-saving tool, will cost 88 million. Such prices were simply mind-blowing, because the guy would soon die, and she was also engaged in extortion. The evil Lolia told the guy that if he kept trying, he wouldn't be able to buy anything from her anymore. It really sucked for him, but if he missed 3 more hits, he would die, and he agreed to those terms. Meanwhile, the chubby guy continued to fight, shouting to the scoundrel that no one dares to beat him, and he was going to show Qinglong who the father was by defeating him in battle. The scoundrel did not like that the damn fat man was trying to beat him, and since he was looking for death, Qinglong was ready to help him with this. In a few seconds, 2 opponents were supposed to clash in a fight, only one would be able to get out of it. The determined chubby continued to go on the attack, because he wanted to protect his comrade and defeat the scoundrel. There was an explosion of incredible power as 2 powerful rivals clashed together in a duel. Realizing that his comrade was in danger, Fan Wang began to go to his aid. By using a magical shield, the 2 brothers were protected from the hands of Qinglong, and he did not kill them from his strongest blow. Admiring his friend, the plump one said that he was really very cool. He didn't like the fact that the 2 guys were cooing in front of Qinglong even more, and he wanted to beat them up. Suddenly, the scoundrel's hand was stopped by someone who was much stronger. As it turned out, it was Fan Wang who was talking about Qinglong working for competitors, and it was not surprising that Brother Wei wanted to beat him. The battle-weary and anxious bandit wanted to know if Wei Chen had really sent him, so they found out their secret place. The hero, meanwhile, realized that the bandit knew too much, and shouted to the plump guy to help. At the same time, the chubby guy had already started to run away, and shouted to his brother Fan that he had to hold out, and the guy was going to find help and come back. This act greatly surprised the hero, because he realized that his comrade really did not value friendship. The villain, meanwhile, was even more furious, and shouted that his enemy's assistant had escaped, and now their fight would not be equal. Fan Wang understood that this guy was hard to defeat, and he would have to slowly wear down his strength, and that's what he was going to do. Using a magical shield, the hero wanted to resist the attacks of the scoundrel in order to exhaust him and complete the battle that had begun. Using the shield, Fan Wang called Qinglong to make his strongest blow again. Meanwhile, the chubby guy was running down the street, and realized that he had to find an assistant, otherwise Brother Fan Wang would be finished. Suddenly, someone noticed that the student was running very scared from someone. It turned out that it was Xian Ningyu who was riding her scooter, and immediately realized that the students were in danger. Unfortunately, she lost control and drove straight into the guy. Having fallen to the floor, the girl hit the asphalt hard because she fell from her scooter. After looking a little closer, Xian Ningyu recognized her student Xing He, who was running from someone. The alarmed guy began to shout that Fan Wang was in danger and needed to be saved quickly. At the same time, the battle continued, and the enemy was already extremely exhausted. Qinglong considered his opponent a masochist because he exhausted him, and he continued to fight. The fearless guy, in turn, wanted to continue to fight, because he understood that only in this way could he win. Snapping his fingers, Fan Wang asked Donatia to take out the strength restoration ointment. The donation system immediately handed over the ointment and said that he needed to pay 500,000, and he would immediately become a man. Without thinking twice, Fan Wang immediately took this ointment for 500,000 and began to drink it to restore his strength. Now he was able to fight once more, and show his opponent what it meant to be a real man. The fight continued, and the main character attacked with renewed vigor, as if he had never fought before. This greatly surprised the scoundrel, because he did not expect the enemy to recover so quickly. With all his might, the guy hit Cheng Long right in the face, because he wanted to finish the battle he had started and finally win the fight. Using the technique of multiple strikes, Fan Wang began to strike the entire body of the enemy, because he was already exhausted and almost lost. Also, the enemy was very slow, which made it possible for the main character to win. From an extremely strong blow, the villain was slammed into the wall, and with his body he destroyed part of the building. The villain continued to watch his enemy and saw that he had drunk some kind of potion. And since this was the case, Cheng Long was going to reward Fan Wang for such a fight. Using the remnants of his strength, Cheng Long used all the energy to release and began the transformation into his new appearance. Now the protagonist's enemy had turned into a ferocious creature that was ready to attack at any moment. Things were really bad for the guy, and he understood it, because the enemy had also regained his strength again. In turn, the hero used a sparkling shield. Although it was seriously damaged, only 80% of the force of the blow was automatically reflected. Fortunately, the reflection of the force of such a blow was indeed enough to defeat the opponent. The villain's hand immediately began to hurt very badly, because the force of the blow was reflected directly into it. The bandit could not understand how this was possible, because the dragon's flash did not penetrate his shield, and Cheng Long wanted to know where such an opponent came from. The unshakable hero, who was experiencing great rage, only shouted at the scoundrel to shut up. The next attack was aimed directly at the scoundrel's face to finally defeat him. Thus, the enemy was defeated by a single blow that hit him right in the face. Fan Wang realized that his opponent never beat him, and he answered him, but with interest, after which the guy asked Donatia to collect the debt. Having looked at his opponent, the guy noticed that in his pocket there were only a few bank cards and a pink flash drive. It was immediately clear what the contents were, and whether this was Cheng Long's innermost secret. In any case, the guy took it with him to see what was there. While resting near the fight, the hero decided to ask Donati how much they could earn from this fight. The donation system didn't like what it saw, because this rogue's cards only had 800,000. For Fan Wang, this was really strange because it seemed that this bandit was very rich, but still he also wanted to know how the chubby guy was doing. Meanwhile, Xie Ningyu, along with Xing He, ran to the main character in order to help and save him. Hearing someone talking behind him, the guy immediately turned around. The teacher was dumbfounded by what she saw because she did not understand how an ordinary student could defeat a person at the peak of level E. Some time later, the entire Qingxiang area was blocked off, and everything was blocked by a yellow stripe. All the criminals were captured and had to go to jail because of their actions and crimes. Even Xie Ningyu thought Fan Wang was very cool that he was able to complete the E-level task. The chubby guy thought it was F-level all this time. Suddenly, the hero noticed that the teacher has very big ambitions, and it is not surprising that all the students study well. Unexpectedly, Xie Ningyu squeezed the guy's hand with all her might and said that they should stay one-on-one to discuss his academic performance. The guy, trembling in pain, asked him to stop this, because he would no longer bother her. Thus, the teacher realized that Fan Wang did not need to go to the hospital and should return to school to submit his assignments. Without hesitation, the guy agreed and decided to head to class. Luckily, they had a chubby car that they could use to get there as quickly as possible. While the plump guy was driving the car, he asked Fan Wang why he was silent all the way. The hero, meanwhile, was thinking that the sparkling shield was really good. It's a pity that the number of uses is limited. As it turned out, the shares also reached a peak, and the guy decided to transfer 30 million to his friend, but told him not to complain that it was not enough. But after checking the balance on his smartphone, the heroes realized that he had no money in his account. It was Donati's doing. She pocketed all the money to pay off her debt. The indignant guy wanted to know how much he still owed, and when he would finally pay off his debt. The alarm donation system immediately began to calculate how much its owner still owes, and as it turned out, he owes exactly 160 billion. Not understanding anything, the guy was simply furious, because he couldn't understand how such an even number had turned out at all. He had some uneven numbers anyway. As it turned out, Donatya thought that she had helped the guy a lot, so she pocketed a little yourself money. The system instantly began to cry, but Van took pity, saying that there was no point in crying in this case, because it won anyway. Some time later, events continue to take place at Fongling School, namely the place where awards are received. The guy was congratulated on completing task E+, as well as on receiving the highest military rank. As a reward the guy received 5 million, and 2 more bottles of mental strength solution. The students, meanwhile, did not understand how this was possible, because only teachers can receive assignments for class E+, moreover, it is necessary to complete 9 years of training. Feeling very awkward, Fan Wang smiled at everyone in gratitude as soon as he received the award. Wei Chen saw all this and thought that this trash was also showing off. He shouldn't think that he didn't know that Xie was helping him. The sworn enemy still decided to call the director, and was going to shoot a small video about how a teacher seduces a student, starring Xie Ningyu and Fan Wang. He wanted to plan everything just right. The proud guys discussed after the lesson that they were able to defeat such a strong opponent not without the help of magic, and after the lessons they would go to the big sword. The hero was really surprised by this proposal, because he didn't understand where the plump guy got such an appetite. Puffy also said that he heard that several girls from Sichuan had checked into the Fonglin Hotel. They were hot and skillful. Nevertheless, in this way they managed to persuade Fan Wan, and together they went in search of adventure. Suddenly, a smart guy heard music that was coming from not far from them. Xing He immediately noticed that some beauty was dancing not far from them. This was really a girl who the boys liked very much when they saw her. This girl was blogger Lin Miao, who listened to some pretty stupid music. In any case, even taking into account the fact that the music was stupid, Fan Wan and Xing He fell in love with the girl at first sight. Then the boy decided to meet the girl and show the plump guy how to do it. Coming closer to the girl, the hero said that he was a fan of her streams and never missed a single stream. This really surprised the girl, and she was going to give her fan something, although she herself thought that this guy himself had fallen for her hook. The sweet girl asked the hero to extend his hand to receive a gift. Without thinking twice, Fan Wang immediately extended his hand to find out what gift was waiting for him. Ling Miao gave her hand in response, saying that she was giving herself. Van was truly shocked by such a proposal, because he did not know that he would get the girl so easily. Unable to tolerate such behavior, Fan Wang said that he did not need her, because he did not look like someone who would date the first girl he came across. This answer greatly offended Ling Miao, because she did not understand how anyone could refuse her. Angry with the guy, she shouted that he should come back and apologize to her. With an arrogant look, the hero turned to answer the insolent girl that he no longer wanted to answer her questions, because he and his friend were going to the big sword. This answer made the streamer even more angry, and she could not understand how this guy chose his friend, as if her face or figure was not very good. In fact, her worthless tricks were of no use in this situation, because Fan Wang couldn't wait to get a foot massage from Sichuan girls. It turned out that the streamer initially wanted to steal it, but now changed her mind. Looking at the guy, she used a charm technique. This is a strong spiritual technique, and the average ones can lose their minds for a while, and will also be brought under control. Trembling with love, the guy could no longer control himself and did not understand what he was doing. After all, now he was extremely in love, and wanted Ling Miao to literally steal him away. Some time later, events continue to occur in the Fongling Hotel, namely in one of the rooms. Meanwhile, Ling Miao was taking a shower as she prepared to have a nice time with the hero. The guy in love could no longer wait for the girl to get out of the shower. The streamer was dressed like a cat and asked the guy she brought over if he missed her. She actually wanted to whip him to death and was about to start it. Having lost his head, the guy only wanted Ling Miao to fall in love with him and called her queen. The cunning girl wanted to blindfold him so that he would lose his vigilance and could not fight back. Fan Wang's eyes were completely blindfolded, and he could now see absolutely nothing. As it turned out, Ling Miao wanted to blackmail the hero and began taking pictures of him in an inappropriate position. And then she sent a message to Xia Ning with the address of the Fengling Hotel and the room number, and also told her to come alone and not to report to the police, otherwise the guy would be finished. Seeing this, the teacher realized that this was a setup, and Fan Wang was being used for these purposes. I understand that the situation is hopeless for the guy. The girl immediately began to prepare for the trip to save the student. The scoundrel continued to beat the main character and asked if he liked what she was doing. Donatia continued to look at all this, and realized that the girl was really a villain. Fortunately, the caring donation system decided that it would help him one more time for the sake of money, after which the charm dissipated. Thus, Fan Wang's consciousness instantly returned, and he understood what was happening. After the next blow, the guy experienced incredible pain and could not stand it any longer. No one had ever treated him so cruelly that they almost even ruined his skin. Now the guy wanted to give her a chance so that Ling Miao would be easier with him, otherwise he did not want to answer for the consequences. The stunned girl could not understand how this simple guy woke up after her charm, but she also really liked that this guy was rude to her, so she thought he was handsome, and his figure was also super, but now was not the time for a love relationship. Fan Wang continued to insist that he had been pretending all this time, and such trash skills as hers did not work on him, and understood that it was good that he had Donatia. Meanwhile, the donation system gave the hero the maximum score for his ability to show off, and asked him if he now understood that she is very cool. The system was indeed very cool, because Fan Wang, together with it, could not be afraid of anything. The streamer was extremely angry at this expression, and she angrily shouted at the hero that no one dared call her abilities garbage. Because of this, the guy now has to find out what a real heart winner is. Not wanting to listen to this, the hero fought back and hit her straight in the face with all his might. From the very first blow, Ling Miao began to experience incredible pain, because she did not expect that someone would decide to beat her. Thus, the guy can eat her brains, and he absolutely does not know how to treat girls. Fan Wang understood all this time that he could treat this girl like that, and in general, guys shouldn't follow this nonsense with her. Guys are not her toy, and he, especially as a henpecked man, won't listen to her. This argument left Ling Miao speechless and she didn't even know how to respond. As soon as the arguments ended, she immediately decided to give the main character his phone. There he saw that a message had been written for Xianingyu, and in this message he called his teacher to come to him. Meanwhile, Xianingyu was almost there and wanted to help her student get out of a difficult situation. A few minutes later the teacher was right next to the door, about to open it. Suddenly, the girl realized that the door was not closed at all. As soon as she entered the room, she was immediately surrounded by a strange pink gas. It had an extremely negative effect on her mind, and Xianingyu began to experience severe dizziness. Some time later, the teacher completely lost consciousness, and not far from her stood a man who was watching her all the time. This scoundrel saw the beauty and wanted to deal with her so that he could tell everyone who she really was. The lady was under the influence of Huan's sleeping gas, and this would help dispel it. It turned out that it was imperial businessman Song Luan who wanted to mock the girl who came. He began to tear off the girl's clothes and shouted that he would take revenge for the fact that his man was caught and his weapon was stolen. He also wanted to take interest from her body in order to mock Xianingyu as much as possible. Suddenly, the girl's eyes began to glow with a bright light, as if she had awakened. Using sacred magic, she threw away her enemy, preventing him from mocking her further. The criminal instantly flew several tens of meters away, and experienced incredible pain from the magic that affected him. The alarmed and frightened man immediately realized that Xianingyu was a disciple of the Huaning Temple. In fear, he began to run away and shouted that he would better not touch her, because she could even finish him off right here. After the blow was applied, the teacher gradually began to regain consciousness. Her magical abilities gradually dissipated, which gave her the opportunity to survive in such a difficult situation. Suddenly, the hero approached the door where the teacher was, and he shouted that he would save her now. As soon as the guy entered the room, he immediately saw Xianingya lying unconscious in the bed. Getting even angrier, the guy began to think that these scoundrels had beaten the teacher. But as soon as he came to take a closer look at the girl, he immediately realized that Xianingyu had finally come to her senses. Not understanding anything, the teacher was extremely embarrassed, because she was lying on the bed, and a student was standing not far from her. Immediately she decided to slap the scoundrel, because she thought that it was he who did everything that happened here. The teacher began to think that the student wanted to be with her, and started all this. Xie Ningyu also showed Fan Wang that he had sent her messages of this nature, and this could not just be a coincidence. I continue to make excuses. The guy said that even if he were 100 times bolder than he is now, he still wouldn't dare to do that, and if she doesn't believe it, then he can prove it in another way. Arriving in another room, they only noticed the clothes that were lying on the bed, and Xie Ningyu was even more indignant because she believed that the student was mocking her. Hitting the hero in the face again, the teacher shouted that she would kill him for such actions. The angry guy ordered Donata to find that streamer so that she could mark the teacher with a whip. Even the donation system laughed at this, because he is now so poor that he shouldn't even think about such services. Getting even more angry, the hero shouted that he should not be underestimated, because he still had a reward left for the task. Donatia immediately remembered this and said that she forgot to deduct. This deduction would just save him from the extra balance of money. After all these events had passed, the story continued the next day. By cultivating his abilities, the guy felt that his strength had risen to another level. Looking at his hand, he also saw a bright light, and thought that this was the very quintessence of power. Suddenly, his phone rang, and it was probably a very important call. In any case, the guy didn't really want to answer it, because he didn't understand who could be calling at such a time. Taking the phone in his hands, Fan Wan saw that it was Xie Ning calling, and something important had probably happened. The concerned young man immediately answered the call to find out what happened. The evil teacher shouted that the mentor on the assignment was calling him now, and he now needed to roll here, immediately. It turned out that the mentor on the hero's assignment is Liang Yujiang. Instead of the assignment at the Fengling Imperial School, the purpose of the assignment is to train new people in local subordination. Arriving at school, the hero immediately greeted the mentor and asked why he was called. The man, in turn, ordered the guy to sit down, and said that he had heard that Wang had defeated someone awakened at the peak of level E. A little embarrassed, the guy only said that there was nothing wrong with it. He had donated that batch of weapons, and it seemed that the man decided that he would also use it and condemn him for it. The enraged man immediately assumed that the hero had pocketed Chenglong's weapon for himself. Worried even more, he began to deny it, saying that he did not dare to keep such things. The Eastern Star Group did a lot of evil, and then he destroyed all these weapons. This answer shocked the man even more, because he did not understand how this was possible. After explaining the situation, Fan Wang said that he absorbed all the weapons using the void technique. This technique is defective, it can only be absorbed, and cannot be returned back. Listening to all this, Liang Yujiang was really amazed, especially that the equipment was defective. Suddenly, the experienced fighter began to laugh. They said that this was really an excellent outcome, because the weapon was destroyed, and there would be fewer reports to write. The donation system also noticed that the hero has upgraded his shamelessness skill. Smiling, the guy turned to Liang Yujiang, saying that it was an honor to help him. Then the man said that there was a lot of garbage in the laboratory that had nowhere to throw it away, and he asked for help. The stunned hero immediately realized that this old fox had decided to test him. Entering the laboratory, they saw that there was indeed a lot of garbage around, and the new guy needed to remove it so that the laboratory would be clean and there would be nothing foreign. The angry Donatia said that even if you poke your eyes out, you should beware of deception. Without understanding anything, the guy wanted to find out if this old leaf really intended to deceive him. The concerned guy nevertheless decided to ask the mentor if he could start. There were many types of waste around, and they had all been sitting here for many years. The military man also decided to warn the new guy, saying that this waste was very dangerous, and asked the guy if he could handle it. Fortunately, Donatia noticed that there was a lot of money in this room. A little embarrassed, the guy saluted the warrior and said that a real man can do anything. Liang Yujiang was about to leave and asked to quickly get rid of this waste, after which the hero could get the money. The smart guy immediately began to examine the waste that was located not far from him, and asked Donatia to start working. This was really surprising, because the waste contains radioactive elements in large quantities. A lot of power can be produced. The cost is 50 million. A meteorite was also spotted, the cost of which was 15 million. Even the Star Creeper was considered trash and could fetch around 65 million. Realizing that this was indeed a very cool income, the hero began to call on the spirit of the sky, the spirit of the earth, the ruler of everything, asking him to listen to his orders, saying that everything that happens to him is for the better. And turning to the system, the guy wanted all the garbage around him to disappear in an instant. The magic was indeed very powerful, and even Liang Yujiang was surprised at this turn of events, because he did not expect it from a simple guy. Today's deal was indeed very pleasant for Donati. She rewarded him with the Xian Yuan red pill, which will help improve his skills, but there may be a side effect of video fatigue. Even an experienced and military man admitted that Salaga was really very cool, because it was not bad that he managed it in an instant and absorbed everything. A slightly tired guy wanted to ask his mentor if he still had trash. This question made the military man laugh very much, because the young man really had a lot of space in his void technique, and he wanted to find out how many things he could put there. The puzzled guy only said that this is such an effect, and it can absorb a lot of things. Without thinking twice, Liang Yujiang decided to invite Fan Wang to join his team. Refusing, the hero thanked his mentor for the offer, and said that he wanted to continue the family profession, eat and wait for death. This answer did not suit Liang Yujian, and he ordered the ungrateful man to get lost, although he still wanted to send him on a very profitable mission. Some time later, the soldier began to take something out of his pocket. The meter he took out did indeed have a 0 reading, indicating that Wang was not lying. There were no waves of energy, which meant that he had tapped into spiritual energy, and it looked like he was indeed a spiritual warrior. A few minutes later, events continued to occur outside the underground laboratory. The boy decided to ask Donati how much money they earned from this task. The donation system said that the total amount of earnings is 299 million, and he owes her another 1,300 million. This money was not so important for the hero, because the main thing was that he had a lot of fun. Suddenly, scoundrels came up and said that Fan Wang had offended their little sister and would be punished for it. Seeing this, the hero immediately thought that the streamer also dared to return, and did not understand where such courage came from. Imitating fear, the girl turned to her brother so that he would look at this guy, who was very angry. The brothers were very angry with the hero, because they believed that he really offended their little sister. They were extremely indignant because his little sister was crying because of him, because of such trash as him. Sighing heavily, Fan Wang understood that all this was nonsense. Their sister had invented absolutely everything to set her brothers against him. Having taken out shurikens, one of the villains wanted to use them against the main character to avenge his sister. With all his strength, he threw several projectiles directly at the guy, wishing him only death. Taking a look at these projectiles, Fan Wang immediately knew that these were Tang Men's secret weapon. Deftly jumping to the side, he was able to dodge absolutely all the projectiles. The enraged enemy at the same time did not understand how such a stupid person could evade the trick. Concerned, Donatia shouted to the guy to be careful and dodge the blows. Initially, the hero did not even feel the danger, but the fact that the system was alarmed greatly surprised him. It turned out that this is a black crown blow, a weapon created through long contact with poison. Even close contact can poison. Realizing the danger of the situation, he understood that it was impossible for the guns to fly close to the body, and it was unknown what to do then. The donation system immediately reminded him that there are remote injections, and he can use the divine hand position. Realizing that this was a very cool ability, the hero immediately remembered that Buddha's hands exist. This was indeed the case, and Donatia decided to give the guy a free gift and began transferring the military magic database. Using the system, data began to be downloaded, namely the hands of Buddha, fake version 01. After a few seconds, the skill was successfully learned, and Fan Wang was ready to fight again. Using his magical abilities, the guy began to confront the villain who dared to attack him. An ability of this kind greatly surprised the enemy, because he had no idea what else Fan Wang possessed. Using just one technique, the guy was easily able to defeat one of the streamer's brothers. He sighed heavily. He also realized that the job was finished, and it was awesome that the fake version was so powerful. These words angered Donatia, because the real version costs 300 million, and he cannot afford it, although this is the first fake made by her, which is why she should be considered generous to him. This was indeed the case, but Fan Wang is smart, handsome, and also a major, and the use of fakes spoils his image. In anticipation of the next fight, the guy already knew that he should fairly give a portion of blows to other scoundrels. After starting the fight, Wang immediately used the Buddha's hand directly on the second brother to neutralize him. The ability was indeed very interesting, because with only one blow from the Buddha, it was possible to destroy the enemy. For the streamer, this battle was very scary because they did not expect the enemy to be so strong. Suddenly, everything around the hero seemed to start shaking, and his head began to spin. This technique was a little defective, and it used up all of the guy's energy, but it's good that the Xian Yuan pill was still not digested, and saved him. The concerned system said that this is only version 0.1, and it seems that version 0.2 needs to be developed. It turned out that all this time someone was filming what was happening on their phone camera and filmed the fight. It was a scoundrel named Wei Chen who wanted to inform the principal that there was a fight at school. The insolent man understood that even though the blood of a warrior had awakened in Fan Wang, he still remained trash. The determined streamer realized that she would not give up and wanted to fight back. Taking out the microphone, she immediately began singing to deliver a special punch. It turned out that this was a lyrical attack, as well as an attack on mental strength, by a frantic microphone with 7 musical waves. The enemy's voice was indeed very loud, and Fan Wang realized this only after the first attack. I understand that I need to act. He also knew that it is necessary to shut her up, even though she screams quite well, it is simply necessary. Unexpectedly, the opponent noticed that this guy was ignoring the sound wave. Because of this, she began to circle around the hero, saying that she wanted to dance with him, and ordered him to move. The hero even began to clap for this, because she danced perfectly. His eyesight and sense of smell were dulled, so in fact he was immune. The embarrassed streamer realized that this guy was immune, and it looked like he would be bad. Continue again. The girl said that she is the goddess of murder, who came down from heaven to kill him, and she still has a lot of abilities. She even had a slam dunk ability in her arsenal, which she wanted to use on her enemy. Fortunately, Fan Wang was very strong, and could easily repel the attack of the impudent girl who dared to attack him. Absorbed the attack, the guy pushed her away with all his strength so that she would no longer be able to fight. Although Van really did not want to hit the beautiful girl, because he was sorry that such a beautiful face could disappear, the streamer, meanwhile, did not understand how this could happen. Donatia I decided to answer her, saying that Fan Wang is now her master, and she is a goddess from outer space. The streamer's worthless tricks are worth nothing. Fan Wang decided to add that Donati's figure is also very good, and he also found such a handsome owner. Meanwhile, the streamer was flooded with reminders from her childhood. The girl began to remember how, as a child, she walked with her mother through a dense forest. Good mom taught her daughter to be a good girl and talked about magical abilities. As a child, the girl wanted to know if she could live happily with her mother. Patting the girl on the head, the mother wanted to tell her something. She said that she should remember that only a faithful, kind, honest and brave person is worthy of her. And then the girl decided to ask how she would know if this person had these qualities. Then the mother explained that if this person was immune to her abilities, then it would be him. At that very second, the girl realized that perhaps this fool was the messenger of fate. Confused and with tears in her eyes, she began to run away from the battlefield, because she could no longer fight. Not understanding anything, the hero just looked after her and thought about what happened to her. Some time later, events continued to happen in the hostel, and the chubby guy was telling his friend that he was being insulted on the forum. A video of Van fighting was posted on the forum, but the guy just liked it, because it was easy to become famous, and next time he was going to hit his opponents again. The concerned comrade began to fear for his friend, saying that he could be expelled for such behavior. The self-confident guy was not worried at all, and told the plump guy that he was tired and wanted to rest a little, and he could go about his business for now. Wanting his friend to have a good rest, he began to leave so as not to distract him. Taking out a pink flash drive, Fan Wang understood that it was better to watch such things alone. After all, some very secret information is probably stored on this flash drive. It turned out that a password was set on this flash drive, and within 30 seconds it was necessary to enter it. Realizing that he couldn't handle it on his own, he decided to ask Donati for help so she could unlock the flash drive. The clever system asked for 5 million to hack this flash drive. Without thinking twice, the hero decided to ask her to hack faster so that the two of them could look at the secret information. A few seconds later the flash drive was hacked and the password was entered. In fact, there was some kind of stupid card on the flash drive. Suddenly, the system discovered something and noticed a red zone on the map, after which it asked the hero to take it with him. Indignant, the guy asked her to stop being capricious, because there is pollution and strange weirdos in this damn place, and he doesn't want to just give his life there. Starting to cry, Donatia remembered that she had lived there for a very long time. Although he didn't want to go there, he still decided to help the girl because she gave him life. Some time later, the guy finally reached the danger zone, but saw signs that warned that this place was indeed very dangerous. This caused serious concern in the guy, and he asked Donati if it would be better for them to return, otherwise going into danger was not a good idea. The girl was not satisfied with this answer, and she noticed that he was right, and she needed to find an owner who was not afraid of death. Having started to make excuses, the guy only said that he was only joking, and his words should not be taken seriously. The donation system was impossible to understand because the obsessive thoughts about home could not be erased from her memory. Fan Wang was surprised at this turn of events, because he realized that Donatia was born here, before he thought that she was born on some developed planet, where she was fed by robots and could fly in cars. In fact, the girl was not sure that this was her home, but she died here. This was already enough to move forward and investigate the territory. Also, the clever system asked the hero to relax, because she protected them from radioactive radiation. If he finds what she needs, then Donatia will do everything for free all the time. It was really impressive because such a team was like cheaters who really like to take risks. Unexpectedly, Donatia noticed that nearby there was a donation meteorite from the past. It was located in this very crater. The boy was immediately impressed, because he thought that now they would get rich. Investigating the area further, the system smelled the dragon's tooth herb. The hero immediately noticed her, and realized that he was lucky today, because he immediately found the treasure. But it was not an easy grass, and an unknown creature began to crawl out of it, which immediately attacked the guy. The concerned girl asked him not to touch the plant and dodge its attacks. Thus, Fan Wang realized that he was in a very unpleasant situation. The giant creature immediately began to attack him and chase him with its huge tail. The extraterrestrial creature was extremely angry that he was disturbed and woken up from a long hibernation. But the guy's courage knew no bounds, and gathering all his power into a fist, he decided to attack. Using a magical blow, he struck it with all his strength directly at the creature's tail to neutralize it. Unfortunately, this blow was unsuccessful because the creature's shell was extremely thick and sharp, making the pain from the blow unbearable. The enemy of the main character turned out to be a shadow Scorpio, who crawled out right from under the plant that grew on his head. This creature was simply incredible in size, and the guy saw this for the first time. Using his superhuman agility, he began to evade the attacks of the extraterrestrial being, so as not to lose his life here. Angry, he also wanted to know from the system what the hell was going on here. Donatia explained that this is a shadow scorpion. The combat power is not inferior to fighters at the level of peak E, and it is also well protected physically. Rather, it is necessary to use the alarmed swan strike, and aim for the white dot on its head, because it is a weak point. Using all his strength, he immediately used the alarmed swan strike to attack the enemy directly at the weak point. From a blow of such power, an explosion was immediately heard, and it seemed that Scorpio had really been harmed. The helpless creature gradually began to fall to the ground, showing no signs of life. As it turned out, the guy also managed to seize the moment and pull out the very plant that was growing on the head of the shadow scorpion. In any case, the force of this blow was still not enough, because it was only possible to neutralize the enemy for a while. But while there is an opportunity, it is necessary to escape from this place as soon as possible. After a few minutes of intense jogging, Fan Wang decided to look back to see if this colossus was running after him. Fortunately, the shadow scorpion had poor eyesight and could not run that far. Donatia congratulated the hero, because the dragon tooth herb is worth 50 million. The hero was unhappy in any case, because he risked his life, and she immediately took it away. He didn't need it anyway, because he couldn't even eat it. Meanwhile, the enemies of the protagonist gradually approached the scene of the incident, tracking down Fan Wang. The locator showed where their enemy was located in order to find him outside the city. Sheng Chen was grateful to the streamer for a good idea, because he had moved into dangerous territory, and they could only wait and do nothing. Some time later, events continued to occur in the safe zone camp. It was a disaster-free safe zone in the Fengling Empire, and there was even year-round security. The guy understood that he should go to a safe zone, but without a protective suit they could be mistaken for weirdos. Clever Donatia gave the guy a mask, which is a prop for averting eyes, and others will think that he is wearing a protective suit. Having found the mask, the guy laughed, because he thought that this was really a good alternative to a protective suit. The donation system asked the guy to put on this mask and go with her, because there are other necessary artifacts behind the protective grill. The hero's enthusiasm knew no bounds, because he understood that with these artifacts he could get rich. Once in the safe zone, the guy found absolutely no one, although he carefully searched for people. After inspecting the entire safe zone, it was indeed found that there were no guards, and Donatia was afraid that something had happened here, although Fan Wang didn't care and wanted to dig up all the artifacts. Just a few seconds later, he was already able to dig up a heavenly root, which cost about 5 million, and also a lilac flower, the price of which was 8 million. Even in the camp there was an opportunity to dig up valuable things, and Fan Wang was already looking forward to the fact that there would be a land full of riches next. A few hours later, events continued to occur at the exit from the safe zone. The guy really didn't like the green rain, which wet all his clothes, and Donatia asked him to be careful in this place. The fog was getting thicker, and the young man wanted to find out how far they were from the required place. The system could not understand this right away, so he decided to optimize the route and move forward. Suddenly, while optimizing the route, the system discovered something. Namely, that one of the protagonist's acquaintances was being beaten nearby. It was an incredible coincidence. Meanwhile, someone was beating up mutants, creatures that had mutated as a result of radioactive radiation. It turned out that it was Xianingyu who was wearing a protective suit and was fighting against many monsters. The fearless teacher did everything possible to defeat as many monsters as possible. Although it turned out that the monsters were much larger and stronger, Xianingyu gave them a worthy rebuff and could destroy absolutely everyone. Her courage knew no bounds, and she continued to fight the many mutants that continued to surround her. Suddenly, one of the monsters managed to injure the teacher, although she could not expect this. Fan Wang had been watching her all this time, and understood that Xianingyu looked graceful even in a wild state. Overcoming severe pain, the girl thought about how to get out of this situation and win the fight. The hero also saw for a second that the teacher was in danger and she should be helped. Then something began to happen that no one could expect, and Xianingyu saw a student who began to help her. A brave boy hit the monster with a shovel with all his might to help his teacher survive. Competing with the monsters, Fan Wang continued to act, and scared absolutely all the monsters that were trying to finish off the girl. The stunned teacher wanted to understand who this guy was who saved her, but Fan Wang did not want to tell her who he was, and asked Donatia to lend him strength for this fight. Using the acquired magical skills, he easily tied all the monsters around him, and began to use magic on everyone at the same time. His vines could not bind these monsters for long, which is why he asked the teacher to run away from here as soon as possible. The worried girl took the guy by the hand, and they began to run away from the place where the battle was introduced at maximum speed. Some time later, they finally found themselves in the green safe zone, and the mutants here should not have reached them. Looking lower, Xianingyu saw that she had taken the stranger's hand, which made her very embarrassed. Feeling very embarrassed, she could only timidly thank the savior, and she was really very grateful to him. Fortunately, the guy had a way to remove the poison and not leave any scars. If she died from infection, it would be a shame for such a beautiful face. Confused even more, Xianingyu said that she did not need this method of treatment, and she had blood serum. She could not understand whether this guy was a friend or an enemy, but it was better to have less contact with him. As it turns out, the serum won't save you from toxic fumes, and the damn thing won't work, no matter how hard it tries. Not understanding who this guy was, Xianingyu decided to find out why they weren't helping her. She couldn't even read his thoughts, and didn't know who he was after all. Smiling, the hero only said that he saved the beauty, and no other reason is needed. If she wants to thank him, she can marry him. At that same second, the smart girl drew attention to the earrings that were in the savior's ear. That's when she realized that Fan Wang was her savior, and it was not good to flirt with the teacher in such a situation. Such a game was no longer interesting for the guy, because the teacher instantly saw through him. He took off his mask. The girl was finally convinced that this was her student, and wanted to find out what he was doing here. Suddenly, it turned out that Wei Chen and the streamer were watching a performance called The Hero Saves the Beauty. The indignant girl exclaimed that the time had come to separate the lovers. Laughing awkwardly, the hero meanwhile said that it seemed his destiny was to become an adventurer. Xie Ning disliked such adventures very much, and she ordered the student to leave with her. He did not agree to such conditions, because here he is not Xie Ningyu's disciple, and she has no right to give orders, and he should not forget that he saved her life. After these words, the guy immediately began to leave, but the girl didn't care about him, because the safe zone was left without security, and she urgently needed to report to the assignment department. Suddenly, the girl discovered that someone behind her was gradually approaching. It was Wei Chen who noticed that the beauty was abandoned here. Their faces were hidden behind masks, and these scoundrels were going to beat Xie Ningya up to take revenge for Fan Wang's actions. Angry, the girl wanted to find out who they were and what they were doing here. Meanwhile, the hero heard that Xie Ning was in danger and needed to urgently help her again. Realizing her weakness, the teacher understood that in this state she would not be able to defeat her opponents. The arrogant guy, meanwhile, exclaimed that he shouldn't use his magic, because the prey should not know the thoughts of the hunter. This is because the prey has to think about how to escape from the hunter's sight. The opponent immediately began to use his magical abilities, and created an ice hurricane, which instantly ascended into the sky. The hurricane immediately lifted the weakened girl into the air, and with every second her abilities faded away. After a few seconds of being under the influence of such strong magic, she lost consciousness. The scoundrel decided to take her, and together they were going to take the body to an unknown direction. Meanwhile, the guy continued to walk, although he was very tired, but he knew that he was already close to his destination. The system immediately realized that there was a soul stone vein nearby. The goddess really liked such a strong aura that she was very nearby. The guy really liked this very much, because he understood that with the help of this vein they could get rich. Suddenly, Donatia explained that she has a lot of differences, especially with the other brats that are around her. A moment later, Fan Wang saw many mutants running to protect the vein. The enraged creatures were extremely angry, and immediately began their attack on the guy. Taking out the guns from his backpack, Van instantly began to fight off the crowd of mutants, wanting to survive and win this fight. Many mutants were approaching the hero, leaving him no chance to fight off such a huge crowd. Realizing the complexity of the situation, Fan Wang understood that he could not stand it for long, so he asked Donatia to give him a collective ability to show these mutants who is boss. The angry goddess did not want to do this, and ordered the impudent man to run away. Van immediately began to consider the girl a little fraudster, because she said that her cheats had no equal. But he is still very weak with shields, and the goddess does not want these freaks to tear her apart along with him. This was indeed a very powerful argument, so the guy began to run away and wanted to find out what was going on with the vein, because he would need money. The mutants were very worthless, because the goddess only allowed them to temporarily look behind the vein. Laughing at this answer, the hero wanted to find out if the goddess had any smart thoughts on this matter. These mutants move very consistently and harmoniously. Someone is controlling them in any way, and it is he who needs to be attacked, Donatia suggested. It turns out that mutants are not a creature, and they obey someone, as if sorcerers or puppeteers are controlling them. At the same time, Wei Chen and the streamer returned the lost loot to one of the villains. The girl was still unconscious and could not even fight back. The main villain believed that this girl could not move, but she was a person from the Guanyin Temple. But no matter how strong the Guanyin Temple is, it still cannot reach the Empire, and Wei Chen wanted to make a puppet out of this girl. Some time later, a huge vein was discovered, where many mutants mined useful resources. There were really a lot of mutants in this deposit, and they all worked together, like a team, to extract minerals. The smart guy immediately guessed that the ore mining site was here, and he did not expect that after escaping he would return here with them. Sighing heavily, the goddess also understood that this all did not happen according to her plan. In any case, Donatia wanted the guy to act according to her plan and not rush. The main criminal was also in the deposit, and said that mutants are indeed very efficient in extracting ore. The goddess of the system immediately guessed that the man was the puppeteer, and due to the fact that the hero is well acquainted with his skills and weapons, he should prepare himself and finish him off with one blow. Fortunately, the guy had a heavenly sound bow, it shot silently, and the shot speed was very fast. It was suitable for shooting within a radius of 500 m. The brave guy immediately rushed to the attack and aimed straight at the leader's head in order to finish him off with one shot. Instantly the arrow began to fly straight at the impudent man who dared to control many mutants. But a girl who was under the control of the villains stood in the way of the arrow. Instead of the main bandit, she took the arrow on herself, and thus protected the main one. This outcome of the battle greatly puzzled the hero, because Donatia told him to shoot on the sly, and it is extremely difficult to protect himself from such a shot. In any case, the smart girl had another plan, and she wanted to start implementing it. Using Plan B, the hero shouted with all his might to a bunch of idiots that he was here and dug graves for them. The mutants instantly reacted to such defiant behavior and wanted to punish the stranger. A huge number of mutants rushed to attack, despite the fact that they were extracting minerals. As soon as they began to climb up to get out of the mine, it immediately collapsed, and many creatures began to fall from a great height to the ground. Watching these creatures, the hero understood that these fools were fooled even by such simple tricks. A few minutes later, Fan Wang again shouted to the scoundrel that he had his eye on these soul stones, and he could roll from here. Such defiant behavior greatly angered the main bandit, because he wounded him Zhu Hua, and he also dares to be insolent to him, as if he was looking for death. Because of this, the criminal began to use a seal so that his beauties would appear in an instant. These were beautiful puppets, that is, beautiful girls turned into puppets. They have no awareness, and they are completely emotionless. The smart guy, in any case, asked the bandit not to let go, because he wanted to talk to him. Fan Wang didn't understand at all how he could raise his hand to these four beauties. The bandit, in turn, said that if these were the hero's last words, then he could say them as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Van turned to Donata and said that he would approach the soul stones, and she needed to prepare to attack. In special cases, donations without restrictions, and even a ton of stones will be donated. The system took literally everything and wanted to collect even more donations. The enraged bandit saw that his stones instantly disappeared, and ordered his slaves to destroy the guy who dared to do this. Three girls immediately began to attack the hero, leaving him not a single chance to win this fight. One of the girls mastered the technique of leading from afar, and used several arrows in order to harm the main character. Fortunately, using his superhuman agility, the guy easily dodged such an attack. After which, he began to use his magical abilities, using the powers that Donatia gave him. With the help of magical abilities, the three opponents were instantly pinned down and could no longer move. Due to his inability to fight, Fan Wang had a much better chance of winning against the three girls who did not feel pain. But it turned out that the girls' power was much greater, and they gradually began to break out of the shackles of magic. One of the girls actually broke out of magical captivity and began to move towards the main character. The enemy was already completely behind, and used explosion magic to fool her opponent. This kind of magical ability hit Fan Wang extremely hard because it was a self-destruction technique. It really was like that. One of the puppets scattered in different directions because it self-destructed. There was a huge explosion that was visible many meters from the scene. The bandit, meanwhile, shouted to his charges to come closer to him. They also brought the body from the main character, because he wanted to see it and take himself as a trophy. But in fact, the guy turned out to be alive, although he was in incredible pain, but he still had the opportunity to get out of this difficult situation. Trembling in pain, he realized that they were in danger and almost died, after which he began to call Donatia to help him, because if she did not answer him, then the end would come. The worried guy again started calling the donation system and asked not to scare her, because now he could die. A few seconds later, the system booted again, and an unknown girl answered him, saying that she was here. This turn of events greatly surprised the hero, because he did not know who it was. The girl asked to give her the opportunity to introduce herself, and said that she was Donati's cousin, and had come to replace her, and therefore hoped for a pleasant cooperation. Fan Wang did not understand why this happened, because the substitution took place without his opinion, although he could not refuse such a beauty. The new Donatia did not understand the indignation, because the past fool, in order to save him, used all her energy to open the wormhole, and fell asleep for a while. This stunned the guy even more, because he didn't understand how Donatia could fall asleep, because she said that she had no equal. It turned out that the girl works part-time in the system with her, and the system prohibits the use of space-time techniques. Then the guy had a question about how he was resurrected if space-time techniques cannot be used. The new Donatia was not going to answer such stupid questions, and having given the hero the first aid kit, she told him to look for the necessary medications there himself, while she would go and do her makeup. Luckily, these medicines were divine, and Fan Wang was going to take them all. Using one of the divine pills, he understood that even when her sister was angry, he was generally chic. By using just one pill, the divine medicine took effect instantly, and all the wounds immediately healed. Suddenly, the opponents were noticed, who were already very close, and were gradually advancing. The frightened guy again noticed that the female fighters were advancing and were looking for him. These walking bombs are just waiting for the moment to explode, and they still couldn't get rid of the poor guy. Experiencing great fear, the hero began to run away and shouted to his sister to save him. In front of the guy there was only an abyss, and nothing more. All he could do was jump. The system approved this jump and asked him not to be afraid and jump there. Looking back, Fan Wang understood that he still had no other choice, and he needed to act. Gathering his strength, he gained maximum speed and ran with all his strength to jump as hard as possible. But as soon as he did this, he immediately began to fall into the abyss for the fifth and realized that the system had set him up, and he did not want to die, because he didn't even have a girlfriend. Fortunately, the system immediately rushed to his aid and began flying to save him. She did this because she didn't want him to die and easily caught him over the abyss. Landing at the bottom of the abyss, an unknown object was discovered, with a strange entrance inside. The discovered place was indeed very strange, and Fan Wang did not know what it was. Sister Donati explained that this was the place that their silly girl was looking for. In fact, this hanging is a trick to avert eyes, and everything that was around them was very similar to a secret laboratory. Looking around, Fan Wang saw a photograph of his mother, and was surprised that he found her here. Starting to cry, he really missed his mother, and realized that he had not seen her for a very long time. The girl, who did not experience the same feelings, ordered him to be a man and not cry, and then pull the diary out of the drawer. In the box were notes from research and disasters signed by Yi Ying. Meanwhile, the enemies were already very close, and they were extremely happy that Fan Wang helped him find the right place. Donatia immediately felt that they were being followed, and there was a secret one-time passage behind them. They had to quickly go through it and return to school. The upset guy did not approve of this decision, and wanted to understand why the system did not want to deal with the enemies, and not run away from here. The donation system explained that if she did not remove him, then this would be a crime, and she had just taken office, and it would be a pity if he died. Some time later, they found themselves near the exit from the secret shelter. Fan Wang noticed that getting into this shelter was extremely difficult, and they had not yet dug up a lot of treasure. In fact, if they stayed there, then disaster would happen, because after using the space-time technique, void wanderers usually come. The quick-witted guy immediately realized that his sister seemed to know his mother. It turned out that the girl was previously his mother's companion, and she could not help but know her. Meanwhile, events took place in the laboratory of the Cataclysm Zone. Wei Chen was furious that he could not find the necessary documents. It was obvious to the streamer that the necessary documents had already been stolen, and those who did it ran away from here. At the same time, the girl did not understand why she was so happy that Fan Wang was able to escape from here. Suddenly, Wei Chen received a call saying that the mission outfit had saved this bastard. The alarmed guy immediately began to run towards the exit, saying that it was necessary to get out of here as quickly as possible. At the same time, events continued to occur in the Song Long camp, where Liang Yujiang was already present along with his team. Frustrated, Xie Ningyu apologized to the director because she was unable to complete the task. The angry man realized that this black merchant had made a hole in the safe zone, and it was a pity that he escaped. The concerned teacher also said that Fan Wang ran far into the depths, and it was very dangerous there. Liang Yujiang thought that he did not respect the school rules and let him deal with all the difficulties himself, although the man also understood that this guy was clearly carrying a map of the area with him. The experienced general ordered Xia Ning to return to school and wait for further instructions, while the rest continued searching in the disaster zone. The smart soldiers were ready to carry out any orders that Liang Yujiang would give them. Pollution in the disaster area continued to spread, and something must be done about it. This probably meant that it looked like we needed to return to our empire for a while, the man thought. Feeling very anxious, Xia Ningyu continued to hope that Fan Wan would be fine and safe. Some time later, events continued to occur at Fengling School, namely in the dormitory. Rushing into the room, the chubby guy was shocked that Fan Wang had been absent from his room for so long. When the guy said that he was looking for very adventurous adventures, the comrade asked his friend not to be so headstrong, because if he disappeared, he would never be able to successfully finish school. Understanding the complexity of the situation, Wang knew that only the director wanted to cause him an obstacle. But this was not entirely true. It's just that in a month the elections of faculties will start. After the awakened ones reach the peak of level F, in accordance with their abilities they can choose one of the 4 faculties of the joint venture, namely the Faculty of Strength, the Faculty of Magic, the Faculty of Intelligence, the Faculty of Ancient Weapons. All this meant that the hero needed to reach peak level F within a month. This was indeed the case, but it is extremely difficult. To achieve it, you need enough resources for training, otherwise nothing will work. I don't worry about anything, the guy just wants to pull these stupid stones, because for rich people resources are not a problem. Such kindness greatly pleased the friend, because he knew that these were soul stones. Brother Xing he began to climb up and hug his friend, saying that he loved him very much. Fan Wang was surprised by this turn of events, but still asked his friend to go train and not hug each other. In any case, about training, if it weren't for Donatia, he would have been torn to pieces, and the hero needs to train more hard to raise his level. Events continued to happen the next day, and Fan Wang persistently cultivated his ability to develop skills and reach new levels. Feeling the power, his eyes began to glow with a bright yellow light, which meant that he had leveled up. This was truly a breakthrough. 1 soul crystal and 10 soul stones were not wasted on leveling up. Suddenly, the door to the room was knocked down by someone and began to fly in an unknown direction. It turned out that Xia Ningyu's teacher did it, and it was clear that she was incredibly angry. The stunned guy was shocked by the teacher's behavior and did not understand what was happening. In fact, the girl was so angry because Van didn't report his return. The hero suddenly calmed down and realized that this was nothing, because he did not know that he needed to report his return. The embarrassed and angry teacher was sincerely worried about him, and was afraid that he might not survive. Even my classmates from the corridor heard that something incomprehensible was going on in one of the rooms, and someone was screaming very loudly. Feeling very angry, Xia Ningyu was simply furious and shouted at the guy to get to class as soon as possible. Trembling from this behavior, Wang said that there was no point in doing this anymore, and he would go to class right away. Some time later, events continued at school. The teacher announced that there was a month left before the selection of houses, and those who had not reached peak F needed to stand up. In the classroom, everyone immediately started laughing, saying that only Fan Wang here had not reached peak F. Realizing the complexity of existence, the hero understood that this was just a bunch of idiots, or they were just trying to make noise, and no one knew that this morning he had already reached the level. Puffy even thought that it was not disgraceful at all, and he also had not yet reached the F level, and it would be okay if Van stood up. The embarrassed guy told his partner that he should get up himself if he needs it, because he has already reached the level. One of the Odnoklasniki also believed that this scum was afraid to admit that he had reached level F, which meant that he was a coward. This guy was Feng Wei, the son of the Feng family alliance, and he believed that the entire group knew that in the ranking, Fatty was second from bottom, and Fan Wang was first. Other Odnoklasniki also thought that the main character was a true coward and incapable of anything. As it turns out, Wei Chen stole the company in his previous life with the support of the Feng family. The chaos in the lesson made the teacher very angry, and she ordered everyone to shut up. She just needs to know the situation and nothing more, because in the end, only those who have reached peak F have the right to choose the faculty. For the company, even the main character decided to get up from his seat to support his friend. The angry teacher was going to send the failing students to extra lessons, while they were going to continue their regular lessons. Fortunately, the lessons were over, but Van was completely fed up with this behavior, even though the chubby boy calmed him down. Suddenly, Feng Wei stopped him and said that they should discuss compensation. The hero was extremely interested in this proposal, because the fact that there were a lot of problems on his side was not Van's fault. As it turns out, Feng Wei actually wanted compensation for injuring his dude Wang Xiu. Hearing this, the guy couldn't even remember who Wang Xiu was. The plump one reminded him that this was the red-haired dude who glorified him at that meeting. Without showing it, Van only noticed that this informal was too worthless. These words angered Feng Wei even more, and he shouted to the guy that he had injured the man. He was also showing off. He would not let him go until he received compensation of 10 million. In fact, they are classmates, and they need to make at least a discount, otherwise it's too expensive, and Fan Wang should also receive compensation for moral damages in the form of 5 million, so the problem will be solved. The scoundrel did not like this answer even more, and he asked the hero if he was mentally ill. Puffy also added that Brother Fong is too kind and does not consider such trifles as his dude, so he should rather thank Brother Fong. Because of this, Feng Wei became even more angry and could not believe what he heard. Using his magical abilities, the scoundrel shouted that no one dared to underestimate him, so all opponents would now come to an end. In an instant, the opponent used a magical technique and summoned a water dragon, but Fan Wang was ready for this and used the hand of Buddha. Repel the scoundrel's attack. He was easily able to avoid the blow, and threw his opponent several meters away. The fight was truly successful, and Feng Wei wanted to know why Fan Wang was so strong even though he had not even reached peak F. The scoundrel's henchmen were also shocked by this turn of events, because they did not expect their leader to be defeated. Supporting the main character, the plump one said that they should no longer get into a fight, otherwise they will also get theirs. Hanging over the scoundrel, Fan Wang explained that he had overdone it a little, and now they should have a normal conversation about compensation. Some time later, Feng Wei shouted at the hero because this shameless person dared to rip off his clothes. But even such an influential family had so little savings, they are really weaklings, and the guy was going to transfer all the money to the card without hesitation, and it's good that his shirt is worth a lot of money. Right now, Sister Donati must collect the entire harvest. The sister explained that this transaction could result in a loss of 10 million, but she would not take the clothes. This behavior outraged the hero, and he explained that the shirt was branded and could fetch a lot of money. The donation system explained that the guy did not agree to give up his shirt, so the donation was impossible. Again the guy was surprised and understood that the new systems were heartless, and Donatia was much better because she could break the rules, but that's why she didn't work now. Now Feng Wei hated the main character even more, because he not only stole his money, but also wanted to shame him by taking off his clothes. Suddenly, a magical blow followed, which almost hit Fan Wan, but fortunately, he managed to dodge. The blow was really incredibly strong, because it created a huge wormhole behind it. Using a magical shield, Wang decided to defend against the attack in order to save his life from an unexpected blow. A few seconds later, another gray-haired guy appeared and tried to attack. No one could figure out who it was, because the mysterious young man did not initially introduce himself. It turned out that it was young Master Feng Tian, Feng Wei's brother. The elder brother immediately realized that it was no wonder that he dared to offend his younger brother. The brave guy immediately asked him if he also wanted to give him all the money. But the evil elder brother obviously did not have this in mind, because his younger brother was beaten, his money was also stolen, and his clothes were taken off, which made Feng Tian think that the rivals were seeking death. Without hesitation, the new opponent used his magical ability called Strong Wind. Due to the strong wind, many cobblestones that were nearby began to rise into the air and fly in the direction of the wind. Fortunately, such a blow was not comparable to the Buddha's hand, which could repel any attack. And even a stronger opponent was defeated as a result of just one blow. As soon as the defeated guy regained consciousness, Fan Wang immediately approached him and asked him to give up his phone. Plump immediately started clapping his friend's hands because he was a madman and a rebel. Fan Wang is literally the king here. Trembling with anger, Fang Tian overcame himself and gave up his phone so that the money could be stolen from it. Handing the phone into the guy's hands, Van only thanked him for giving him so much money. This made Xing He very happy, because it's not for nothing that they are siblings and even give money together. After receiving the phones, he began looking around to see if potential victims were present. After all, judging by the fact that 2 of them have already given him money for the 5th, it is necessary to take money from all their family members. Sister Donati said that these 30 million go to pay off his debt, the rest are used for monthly restrictions, otherwise the system will change its owner. The hero caught this, because if someone gives him money, this is not a violation of the rules. This is true, usually he can donate things that belong to him, or those that do not belong to anyone. Fan Wang still really missed his old free money, and believed that his little sister should learn from Donati, but if you neglect the rules, then the end will come for the 2 of them, and the guards of the void will come. But the hero did not know that there were any guardians of the void, and he wanted to find out who they were. The system did not want to answer this question, and shouted that he simply needed to know and follow the rules. When leaving the scene, Fan Wang also did not forget to remind his enemies to take more money with them next time. Some time later, events continued to take place at the training ground, with Vaughn attempting to train his friend to level up. Puckliash asked that you not focus only on him, and also train, otherwise the teacher will punish you for this. And it was true that Xia Ning didn't like it very much, because she called Fan Wang not to play here. Justifying himself, the guy explained that he was helping to mentor the chubby guy, and in fact, if he reveals his abilities, he will be top 1 in the group. This was indeed a very arrogant statement, and you should remember your previous certification, because Wang was the first from the end. In fact, initiative is punishable, and the main thing for him was to pass, and in general he didn't care about grades, but Xia Ningyu understood that self-confidence would ruin him, so he should continue training. Continuing to disobey the teacher, the hero thought that only idiots would listen to her opinion. Suddenly, the teacher exclaimed that she would lower her level to his in order to practice together. Seeing this, the plump guy was surprised and realized that his brother was really very lucky. Together, they headed to the special training room, and no one would see Xia Ningyu beat Fan Wang. Supporting his friend, Xing He wished him good luck, and also that he would not fall in a second in battle. But the guy was not capable of this, because he likes to fight for a long time. Suddenly, there was a powerful blow from the teacher directly to the hero's head. Experiencing incredible pain, Van began to fall to the floor because the blow was extremely unexpected. In fact, it was the guy's own fault for relaxing and missing such a simple blow. Fan Wang began to defend himself and asked not to hit him in the face, as he just wanted to see what he was capable of. Using his agility, strength, and acquired skills, he began to fight on equal terms against the teacher. But the experienced fighter knew how it was possible to stop such simple attacks, and she did it with ease. The guy's self-confidence instantly disappeared, because the girl easily overpowered him. With just one blow, she was able to throw the guy several tens of meters to the side. His shadow attacks were extremely easily neutralized, and he felt extremely dizzy from the force of the blow. Having gathered all his strength, the guy realized that it was time to act, and wanted to introduce Xia Ningya to his sacred blow. This time he began to use his 100 times proven strongest move. Unfortunately, this blow was too slow, and the teacher had already managed to get closer to counterattack. The kick caused Fan Wang to fall to the ground and began to feel very bad because he was in severe pain. The stunned chubby man saw that this was the real power of a warrior, and even a proven technique could not work against the teacher. The angry teacher said that now it was the chubby boy's turn, and he would also need training. The alarmed guy began to shake with fear and asked the girl not to hit him in the face. But she clearly didn't listen, and hit Xing He in the face with all her might, knocking him out with one blow. Some time later, the training was over. Tomorrow she was going to develop a training plan for the students, and also gave medicine to heal the wounds. Trembling in fear, the students had a very bad feeling about their next training session. Events continued to occur the next day early in the morning, not far from a very beautiful waterfall. Brother and Chubby decided to cultivate their abilities at the waterfall. But in fact, the hero believed that this cultivation was useless because they were simply standing under the falling water. It turned out that initially it is necessary to concentrate, because this training has a special purpose. The teacher explained that this is necessary in order to develop in them the basis of steadfastness. During the faculty elections, they must choose the most suitable faculty for themselves in order to reveal all their talents. But the most important thing is the foundation. The stronger the foundation, the more promising the future. The hero was outraged by such a statement, and understood that if this was the faculty of strength or ancient martial art, then he agreed with what she said. But if this is a magical faculty, or an intellectual one, then there is no need for them to fight the enemy face to face, because they have ranged attacks. In Xie Ningyu's opinion, the logic was stupid because Qin Jie, who was in first place, had set a record in the basics of the two faculties. The smart chubby guy immediately realized that this is why he was sent to the academy, because he is very strong. A few minutes later time was up and it was time to start training. The guys were really shocked by this turn of events, because they realized that the training hadn't even started yet. The teacher just laughed at this, because her students thought that such an elementary task was their training. In fact, the training consisted of a completely different mission, and it was necessary to avoid tree logs that fell directly on their heads. The frightened guys did not understand how to get out of this situation, and did not want such a tough test. In any case, they needed to do it because Fan Wang is training an ancient martial art, and it is necessary to use the technique of practicing movements and steps to avoid colliding with the logs. Xing He temporarily trained strength, so it is necessary to try to push away the logs. It even seemed to the guys that the teacher wanted them to die here. But this was only their first level, which is why Xie Ningyu only wished them luck. The hero decided to help his chubby friend and said that he could hide behind him. Xing He understood that this was impossible, because they could not use techniques, and they needed to work together, and hand in hand. After all, this was really what the teacher wanted to see during this training. Having accepted his friend's offer, the guy began to act and decided to use his skills. Using his newly acquired skills, Fan Wang began to act. Fortunately, he managed to install the log, and he asked the chubby guy to hit the tree. This was not a problem for the guy, but unfortunately the impact did not destroy the wooden log. Realizing that this was really very bad, the hero realized that the log was falling on him in the opposite direction. Thus, the log hit him right on the head and fell on him from a great height. Very angry with his comrade, the hero even considered him stupid, because he did not know in which direction to hit. Puckliash justified himself, saying that it was not his fault, and no one knew that they would not understand each other. The teacher yelled at them, saying that they should not quarrel at such a time, because another log would soon fall. All this time, a bird, which was sitting very nearby on a tree, was watching everything that was happening. Absolutely all events came into her field of vision, as well as the training of the guys that took place all day. It turned out that with the help of the bird, Wei Chun was watching the guys and noticed that they were training special techniques. This was a great opportunity for the villains to take revenge, and they had to act to make everything beautiful. Meanwhile, the team of guys began to move into tents, because they were very tired and were going to rest. The caring teacher handed over restorative ointments to her students so that they could treat the wounds, so that they would heal by tomorrow. The girl also asked them to go to bed early because tomorrow they would continue their training. Experiencing severe difficulties, the guys did not understand that tomorrow they would have a difficult day again. Puckliash even suggested that his brother escape from here in order to return to his normal life. But it was almost impossible because Xie Ningyu had left a lot of seals on their bodies, and escaping would not be easy at all. Also, these trainings are very useful for them in order to become stronger and stop being left behind in order to enjoy admiring glances. These words encouraged his comrade, and he asked the hero to also smear his body with a special cream. Events continued to occur the next morning, namely on MT. The plump man, shivering from the cold, did not understand why it was so cold here, and in general why they changed the place for training so abruptly, because he had a bad feeling. The resolute hero at the same time exclaimed that they should go into battle, soon after which he decided to find out what kind of task they had to do. The teacher looked at the hero and noticed that his morale was fine. Pulling the lever, the girl shouted that they were now starting training. A lot of rocks started to come down the mountain towards the guys, which caught them by surprise. They were extremely frightened, because they did not expect that huge boulders would roll towards them on the sly. Puffy shouted to the teacher that he still didn't have a girlfriend and he didn't want to die. Concerned, Fan Wang shouted to the chubby man to quickly dodge and not feel sorry. Thus, they successfully avoided one block, and it was necessary to continue in the same spirit. Wang also insisted on concentrating, dodging the big rocks, and pushing the smaller ones. Once again another stone was thrown directly at the guys, but fortunately, they were now ready. The main character easily dodged a stone that literally almost crushed him. Little by little, Puckliash got used to such tests and stopped relaxing, which is why he was extremely concentrated. The teacher, in turn, told the students that only on the verge of death can a breakthrough be achieved. In any case, the seals will not allow them to die, but they still need to eat, which is why she decided to feed them. When leaving, Xianingyu said that one should not get too carried away with food, and one should be more careful, and also beware of rockfalls. The satisfied guys were very glad that they had finally been fed, and they could rest peacefully while the teacher was resting. Suddenly the hero noticed that something was wrong, because a thick fog appeared nearby. The guys began to look around the area and thought that the teacher had increased the difficulty for them, rather than hoping that it was just an increased difficulty mode and not hardcore. But the teacher had nothing to do with it, and when she saw the fog, she realized that it was really very strange. At that same second, the arrow began to fly straight at the girl to hit her like a target. The agile Xianingyu was able to dodge, but exclaimed that someone was attacking them. Many magic crystals began to fly straight at her, but fortunately, the girl was able to fight off this attack. Unexpectedly, the enemy crept even closer and was able to attack her directly in the forehead. The main villain was very happy that they finally met, which is why he wanted to make Xianingya his puppet. Meanwhile, Wei Chen was talking about how he needed to kill Fan Wang and the girl to cripple his partner. The concerned students immediately realized that due to the fact that their seals had lost their power, something had happened to the teacher. The smart guy remembered that Donatia gave him a bunch of medicines, which is why he gave his comrade a strength restoration pill, because in this way his strength would be replenished very quickly, but the plump guy didn't want to eat them, because it contained Van's snot. But if He did not want to die, then he rather needed to eat this pill, because now their lives depend on it. Having gone upstairs, the guys discovered that there was no fog here, and they needed to look from above what was happening in this forest. Just in case, they also planned not to take the main road, and thought that they would make a path themselves to climb the mountain from there. The stunned chubby couldn't believe these words, because he realized that they would climb the mountain, and assumed that they were just scared and nothing really happened. But the hero was determined, and told his comrade that it was not in vain that he took the strength restoration pill, and he should go forward, and Van would support him from behind. The frightened chubby guy tried with all his might to climb the mountain, although his hands were shaking, but gradually he was getting higher every second. The hero behind him supported him, and realized that it seemed that the training had clearly benefited them. He confirmed this, saying that he trained for a reason, and that the fog was indeed weaker at the top. Wang also noticed that his comrade was making progress in his training. Fortunately, they finally climbed, and there really was no fog at the top, so they need to quickly see what happened. Things were really bad because one of the enemies was charming Xianingyu's teacher. The teacher was in danger, so it was necessary to save her quickly. But Fan Wang understood that these people were very cunning, and if the teacher could not resist them, then even more so they. Meanwhile, at the bottom of the gorge, the search continued, and Wei Chen did not understand where they had gone, because they could not see through the fog, and they should search more carefully. The search continued, and the enemies decided to split up in order to find the guys as soon as possible. At the same time, the scoundrel continued to charm the teacher so that she would become his puppet. The attentive hero realized that the bodies were really bad, because this scoundrel could cast magic. Puckliash immediately offered to distract the sorcerer, but we should think about how to proceed further. In any case, they need to be as careful as possible so as not to die in this battle. Suddenly, the chubby guy exclaimed so that the losers could see how cool he was. Using the release of energy, he began to run towards his enemies with all his strength in order to crush them with his strength. The puppeteer immediately noticed this and sent one of the puppets to pacify the young man. The puppet instantly began to shoot poisonous darts, but fortunately, the puppet had the opportunity to dodge. Meanwhile, the hero looked at everything that was happening and realized that when they control the puppets, they cannot move. The determined guy also began to act and ran to his friend to help. The scoundrel really didn't like that two children dared to attack him, and at such a moment they dared to disturb him. Immediately, he set his puppets to punish the guys and neutralize them. But Fan Wang was not so simple, and was easily able to get rid of the girls using the hand of Buddha, and neutralize them. Calling his comrade, the guy asked him to act as quickly as possible and strike. Puckliash began to act immediately, and gathering all his strength into a fist, he struck the impudent one. Having grabbed the teacher and knocked the villain unconscious, they immediately began to run away to save the innocent girl. But unfortunately, the scoundrel quickly came to his senses and realized that these guys were ruining everything, and for this he would kill them. Instantly, Wei Chen also heard someone screaming nearby. The impudent man immediately realized that the enemies were upstairs, and it was necessary to run after them as quickly as possible. The comrades tried to run away from this place with maximum speed, but the chubby man saw that the enemies were right behind. The enemies were extremely angry because they saw that the guys had no way to escape, but they still tried. Their affairs were bad, because ahead there was only a cliff, which it was impossible to climb over while running away. The brave chubby man exclaimed to his brother to take the teacher and leave, but he was going to detain the enemies. Fan Wang was against this because he understood that his comrade would not delay them, except at the cost of his life. At that same second, Wei Chen approached, calling the guys good boys, and asked them where they were going to run now. Ling Miao even thought that she could help Fan Wan, but it was his own fault that he was unlucky. They had nowhere else to run, and their enemies advised them to surrender now, otherwise they would be deprived of their lives. The concerned hero turned to his sister and asked Donatia to save them as soon as possible. The donation system was now not like Donut, and if there was no money, then there would be no help either. Feeling very angry, the guy decided to act radically and ordered the plump guy to give up all the money and jewelry that he had. Although he didn't know why Fan Wang needed this, he still gave all the precious things that he had with him. Wei Chen even thought that these good boys were crazy and they wanted to pay off. The total cost of the extracted resources was 7.5 million, and the system wanted to find out what the hero really needed. Smiling, the guy asked if the system had any techniques that would make them instantly crawl on the ground. It turned out that only Sister Donatia knows how to do such things, but she doesn't know how. Angry, the guy wanted to ask the system what it could do then, whether it might have some medicines that would raise his level high, even temporary ones would do. But unfortunately, even the money that was in the hero's account is not enough to buy something like that. In any case, the guy didn't understand how he would survive then, because she would just watch him die. The arrogant system only knows how to exchange items, and advised the use of a flying machine. Realizing that the situation was hopeless, Fan Wang asked the system to take them to school. But this money will not be enough for a long distance, unless he flies alone. The enemies, meanwhile, were getting closer with every second, and began to use their magical abilities to finish off their enemies. Experiencing strong rage, the guy shouted with all his might so that the system would then take them to the car, which was standing near the mountain. There was enough money for this, and a flying machine was called in, which took the whole team with it. The villains could not understand what was happening, because there was a strong explosion, and absolutely nothing was visible behind the fog from the explosion. Even Wei Chen could not understand what had happened and how they were able to call the aircraft in the first place. Having landed on the ground, they began to run to the car, and the heroes asked the plump guy to wait and not get into the car. The smart guy instantly discovered that there were explosives under the car, and he knows that Wei Chen is very knowledgeable about such dirty deeds. All this time, some very strange bird was flying around them, which was not the first time the plump guy had seen. Continuing to watch Fan Wang and his team, the scoundrel gloated because he thought that they would fall for his trick and explode in the car. Suddenly, the bird that was watching them was destroyed. Puffy immediately saw that the teacher had finally woken up, because it was she who threw something at the bird. It turned out that this bird was actually mechanical, and it was watching them. The scoundrel immediately realized that a surveillance device had been discovered. Turning to the system, the hero asked her to remove the explosives. She was not against it, but asked for money. Due to the hopelessness of the situation, Fan Wang decided to donate to his mobile phone. Thus, the system used a demoning robot that had an excellent price-quality ratio. The alarmed villain tried to detonate the explosives, but realized that even they did not react to detonation. Having driven the car a little away from the scene of the incident, the chubby man saw that a military vehicle was standing nearby. The main character just had an idea on how to take revenge on the scoundrels who dared to try to kill them. The bomb was placed directly under the car in order to blow up the criminals. The smart system realized that this was useless, because they had an armored vehicle and could not be blown up. But the goal was different, namely to disable the movement system in order to delay time and give them a surprise. The villains were already very close, because they saw the car with the guys who were so desperately trying to escape. Xing He even suggested that Wei Chen would now openly fight them, and would not even hide his intentions. And it was indeed quite possible because Wei Chen's goal was to kill Fan Wang. Determined and brave, Xie Ningyu wanted to do her best to help the guys survive and do everything possible to win this battle. The hero began to explain that the Xie family runs the Yuanling company. There is also patronage from 88 members of the Guanyin Temple. If Wei Chen fights Xie Ningyu, then he is a fool. Puckliash also exclaimed that he would be with his brother to the end and would help him in everything. After thinking a little, the guy realized that if only Wei Chen had fought against them, they would have easily won, but there were stronger people behind him. Meanwhile, the villains were about to get into the car and were ready to go to give chase. Wei Chen yelled at the driver to chase the other car and chased them. Pressing the pedal to the floor, the car immediately began to grind along the ground and gradually move forward. But they were not destined to get there, because the car was successfully blown up and could no longer go. Instantly the villains realized that the brakes had failed and the propulsion system was broken, which is why they would now be unable to catch up with their enemies. Some time later, events continued to occur in the school, where Fan Wang and Xing He were calmly walking along the corridor. Suddenly, the chubby boy noticed that Director Liu had released a statement saying that he would be expelled. For Fan Wang, this was not a problem because Xie Ningyu stood up for him and was about to go straight to the director to resolve the matter. Arriving at the dormitory, other villains mocked the hero, saying that thanks to them he would leave this school, and now he must realize his mistake. The brave guy, in turn, asked the villains where the money was, which he ordered to prepare. But the enemies did not understand what he was talking about, because they considered Van stupid and naive, because he would soon end, and he was also going to engage in extortion. Continuing to insist, the guy shouted that now they could harm each other. Smiling, Wang also asked the chubby guy to take a photo of this scoundrel, because on the evening of the 12th, Wang Wei knocked out one married girl, and last night Fang Tian dared to do something terrible. No one could believe what they heard, and their enemies did not understand how Van could know all this, as if he were a seer. The angry guys shouted that they shouldn't film it, and under no circumstances should they tell anyone about it, because they realized their mistake. He again asked the scoundrels if they were ready to give money. Van began to wait for his payment. It turned out that they were now ready to look for Principal Liu and apologize for slandering Fan Wang in front of the entire school. The smart guy also decided to remind him that his enemies still owe him money. One of the villains began to cry and said that he was giving away his last pocket money. Thanking Xing He for the money, Fan Wang decided to leave it and not touch it again. Fluffy was amazed by this whole situation, and he didn't understand why Brother Nya used his opportunities to tell everyone about that story to make it difficult for the Fang family. All this happened because the Fang family would not last long anyway, and a little time would pass before their family would split into pieces, because they were not so united. After leaving the school, Van noticed that the place was very crowded. He was surrounded by beauties who were in the top 10 girls of the school. Strangers started screaming that they loved someone. The surprised guy thought that these girls were shouting this at him, but the chubby guy asked him not to be stupid and look at what was written on the sign. The sign said that everyone present here loved Qin Jia very much and considered him the best warrior. As it turned out, it was about that guy who is very popular with girls. Xing He admitted that not only the girls are crazy about him, but the guys over there are also crazy. Some youths shouted that Qin Jia is the best and they want his children. Puffy still believed that even though Qin Jia had a very poor family, he brought their school a lot of fame with his talent. Fan Wang thought that there was nothing cool about this, and he simply did not meet the hero, otherwise he would have beaten Qin so much that he would then be looking for his teeth. In any case, the main character still had the opportunity to see Qin Jia, who received many awards and flowers from a large number of girls. Even the plump guy began to be jealous, because he saw that many different girls were showing off in front of this guy. The hero began to reassure his friend, because if he can become strong enough, then the top 10 beauties of the school will want to date him. Suddenly, Qin Jia came closer and greeted Fan Wan, saying that he had seen a video of his battle on the forum. The experienced fighter thought that this was really very cool, and the guy had incredible skills. Feeling a little awkward, the hero only said that this was not a particularly impressive video, and he could do better. Qin Jia also wished Wang good luck, and said that he liked him very much. Turning to the legend, Fan Wang said that Qin should not be offended if his records were broken, but the legend did not even think of being offended, because he set these records only when he was in school.